41st millennium who hunt monsters for coin, but they're called inquisitors, and they answer only to the God Emperor. What happens when a monster hunter from another reality awakens in a galaxy where humanity itself has become monstrous? Today's tale follows a witcher, a professional killer of unnatural things, as he discovers that in the grim darkness of the far future, even his centuries of experience hunting horrors might not be enough. If you crave more tales from the dark millennium, hit that subscribe button and join the faithful. The Emperor protects those who stand with us against the void. Now, let us begin. Geralt of Rivia opened his eyes to darkness and the stench of promethium. His head pounded with a familiar ache, the aftermath of portal magic, though worse than any he'd experienced. The last thing he remembered was pursuing a contract through a destabilized rift near Kaer Morhen. The mage had warned him the conjunction energies were flaring again, opening doorways between worlds. He hadn't listened. Witchers rarely did when coin was involved. Now he lay on corrugated metal plating in near-total darkness, and every sense screamed wrong. The air tasted of chemicals he couldn't name, acrid, burnt, laced with something that made his mutated metabolism recoil. Distant machinery thundered like no watermill or siege engine he'd ever heard. The vibrations traveled through the metal beneath him in rhythmic pulses that spoke of mechanisms vast beyond comprehension. Geralt pushed himself upright, instinctively reaching for his silver sword. Gone. His steel sword. Gone. His potions. His bombs. Even his worn leather armor had vanished, replaced by rough-spun clothing that reeked of industrial solvent. Only his Witcher medallion remained, cold against his chest, and even that felt muted, as if whatever magic animated it struggled in this place. He stood carefully, cat eyes adjusting to the gloom. What he saw defied reason. He stood in an alley, if it could be called that, carved between structures that soared upward into darkness so complete even his enhanced vision couldn't penetrate it. But these weren't buildings of stone or timber. Metal and rockcrete formed impossible angles, surface covered in rust and grime that spoke of centuries of neglect. Pipes as thick as ancient oaks ran along walls, dripping substances that hissed when they struck puddles below. Strange symbols had been painted everywhere, crude warnings in languages he didn't recognize, though some triggered odd associations in his mind. Skulls. Lots of skulls. The scale was all wrong. The structures rose hundreds of feet, maybe thousands, disappearing into a ceiling. No, a sky that glowed with sickly orange luminescence. Not sunlight, not torchlight. Something artificial and perpetual, casting the world in shades of rust and shadow. Geralt's medallion trembled against his chest. Magic, but not like any he'd encountered. This felt tainted, aggressive, as if reality itself had been wounded here and the infection had never healed. Movement in the darkness ahead. 3 figures emerged from a side passage, and Geralt's hand dropped to his empty belt where his silver sword should have hung. They were human, barely. Each stood hunched beneath tattered robes that might have once been white, but now bore the stains of the underhive. Skin showed through gaps in the fabric, pale and lesioned, marked with growths that looked disturbingly like the mutations he'd seen on victims of ancient curses. But these weren't cursed. They were evolved, wrong in ways that made his Witcher senses scream danger. One of them clutched a metal pipe wrapped in barbed wire. Another held what might have been a gun, crude, oversized, looking more like a blacksmith's nightmare than any weapon he'd seen. The third simply flexed hands that ended in claws too long and sharp to be natural. They saw him. Yellow eyes gleamed in the half-light, and lips pulled back from teeth filed to points. Fresh meat. One rasped in a language Geralt shouldn't have understood but somehow did, as if the words bypassed his ears and carved meaning directly into his brain. Ain't dressed proper, ain't marked, Must be lost. Lost means no gang, another hissed. No gang means free prey. Geralt settled into a fighting stance, empty hands raised. No swords, no signs prepared. Just his speed, his strength, and 300 years of experience killing things that should have been impossible. The mutants charged, and Geralt moved. His enhanced reflexes made their attack seem almost slow. He sidestepped the pipe wielder, caught the weapon arm, and broke it with a twist that sent bone through skin. The gunman fired, a thunderous roar that lit the alley with muzzle flash. But Geralt had already moved, the crude bullets sparking off metal where he'd stood a heartbeat before. He closed the distance, drove his elbow into the shooter's throat, crushed the windpipe. The clawed mutant proved faster. It raked at his chest, and Geralt felt the sting of torn flesh even as he grabbed the thing's wrist and snapped it backwards. The mutant howled but kept fighting with its other hand, showing resilience that spoke of something beyond human. Geralt ended it with a knee to the spine and a precise strike to the base of the skull. Silence returned to the alley, broken only by his measured breathing and the distant thunder of machinery. 3 bodies lay at his feet, and Geralt stared at his bloodied hands. He'd killed men before, monsters wearing human skin, but these had been human once. He'd seen the remnants of it in their bone structure, the way their muscles attached despite the mutations. Something had changed them, twisted them into predators for the Underhive. Geralt knelt and searched the bodies, taking the most intact robe to cover himself and claiming the crude gun. He checked its mechanism with practiced efficiency. Simple firing mechanism, chemical propellant, solid projectile. Primitive by some standards, brutally effective by others. The medallion vibrated harder against his chest. Magic nearby. Strong magic, and getting stronger. Geralt looked up into the darkness above, toward that sickly orange glow, and understood with growing dread that this wasn't a city. This was something much worse. He stood in the depths of a structure so vast that weather systems formed in its upper reaches. A hive, a place where humanity had been compressed and stacked until it forgot what sunlight looked like. And somewhere above, in levels he couldn't yet imagine, powers were at work that made the wild hunt seem like children playing at war. The Witcher checked his stolen gun, pulled the tattered robe tighter, and started walking toward what he hoped was civilization. In 300 years of hunting monsters, he'd learned one essential truth. When you wake up somewhere new, find the local contracts board. Every society had monsters that needed killing, and monsters meant coin. He just needed to figure out what counted as monstrous in a place like this. Geralt followed the sounds of habitation deeper into the Underhive, his Witcher senses mapping a world that defied everything he knew about human settlement. The passages twisted and branched like the root system of some cancerous tree, each junction marked with crude symbols painted in substances he didn't want to identify. The air grew thicker as he descended, heavy with chemical fog that would have choked a normal man. His mutated lungs filtered the worst of it, but even he felt the burn. The first true settlement he found called itself Rust Bottom, a name scratched into a corroded metal arch spanning the entrance to a cavern carved from the hive's superstructure. Hab units clung to the walls like barnacles, connected by swaying bridges of chain and cable. Thousands of people lived here in the perpetual twilight, their lives measured in shifts and ration cards, never seeing sky or sun. Geralt moved through the crowds with practiced anonymity, keeping the hood of his stolen robe low. He noted everything, the way people walked with heads down, how they flinched from anyone wearing colors that might denote gang affiliation, the hollow look in eyes that had stopped expecting better. These weren't peasants ground down by war or famine. These were people who'd been born into grinding poverty and would die in it, generation after generation, until the concept of better became meaningless. A market sprawled across what might have once been a transit hub. Stalls constructed from scavenged metal offered goods that ranged from unidentifiable protein bars to reclaimed technology that hummed with uncertain power. Geralt studied the merchants, reading their body language, understanding the social dynamics. Some things translated across worlds: desperation, greed, fear. These were universal currencies. He approached a stall where an old woman sold information along with her questionable meat skewers. Her eyes were milky with cataracts, but she tracked his approach with the precision of someone who'd learned to read threats through other senses. "Don't know your colors," she said without preamble, her voice like metal scraping stone. "Ain't from any gang I recognize. That makes you either stupid brave or genuine stupid." "Neither," Geralt replied, his voice a low rasp. "Just lost. Looking for work." The woman barked a laugh that turned into a wet cough. "Work? Down here? What kind of work you think we got that needs—" She squinted at him, leaning forward. "Emperor's teeth, what are you? Those eyes ain't natural. You some kind of abhuman." Geralt had no idea what an abhuman was, but he recognized the tone. Suspicion mixed with fear. Time for a gamble. "I kill things. Dangerous things. Things that prey on people who can't fight back. Someone here must need that." The old woman studied him for a long moment, then spat into a rusted can beside her stall. "Killers we got plenty of, but you say you hunt dangerous things?" She gestured toward the deeper darkness beyond the settlement. 3 cycles ago, Tanner's crew went into the deep vents looking for salvage. 2 came back, claimed something down there tore the others apart. Big, fast, smart enough to set ambushes. "What did it look like?" Geralt asked, his interest sharpening. They was too busy running to get a good look, but they said it moved wrong, all angles and joints bending ways they shouldn't, and the sounds it made. The old woman shuddered. "Not natural, not human. Maybe not even from this world, if you believe the mad preachers." Geralt felt a cold certainty settle in his gut. He knew those descriptions. Different worlds, same monsters, things that violated natural law by existing. This Tanner, where can I find him? Workshop 3 levels down, but he ain't paying much. Most folk won't even take the job. She looked at him with something almost like pity. "You really planning to go after it?" "It's what I do," Geralt said simply. The old woman made the sign of the Aquila, a gesture Geralt didn't recognize but filed away for later. "Emperor protects the foolish, or so they say. You want my advice? Get yourself a proper weapon first. That autogun you're hiding ain't gonna do much against what lives in the deep dark." Geralt found Tanner in a workshop that smelled of industrial lubricant and welded metal. The man was built like a bull, arms thick with muscle earned through decades of heavy salvage work. Scars crossed his face in patterns that spoke of close calls with machinery, or worse. Tanner looked up from a half-disassembled piece of equipment when Geralt entered, his expression moving from curiosity to suspicion in a heartbeat. "If you're here to scavenge my shop, I got 4 men in the back room and they're all armed." "I'm here about your missing crew," Geralt said. "The old woman at the market told me you had a problem in the deep vents." Tanner's face went hard. "That was 3 cycles ago. Those boys are dead. Already said prayers to the Emperor for their souls." "Maybe. But the thing that killed them is still down there, still hunting." Geralt met the man's eyes steadily. "And it won't stop until something stops it." "And you think you're that something?" Tanner barked a harsh laugh. "Listen, stranger, I don't know what rock you crawled out from under, but things in the deep dark don't die easy. We're talking about mutants, genestealers maybe, or worse. You'd need a kill team to—" "I've killed worse," Geralt interrupted. His voice carried the weight of centuries, the absolute certainty of a professional who knew his craft. "I just need to know where and what you're paying." Tanner studied him for a long moment, then seemed to reach a decision. He crossed to a workbench and pulled out a data slate, a thin piece of technology that glowed with inner light. He tapped it several times, and a crude map appeared. Here, old Prometheum processing station, been abandoned 40 years. Whatever's down there has made it a lair. Survivors said they found nests, organic material webbed across the walls. Geralt felt his medallion tremble against his chest. Organic webbing, ambush predator, intelligent enough to build killing grounds. The pattern matched dozens of creatures from his world: Neckers, Endragas, arachnomorphs. Different names, same behavioral profile. "Payment?" he asked. "Bring me proof it's dead. A head would do, and I'll give you 500 throne gelt. That's more than most people down here see in a year." Tanner paused. "And if you're serious about this, I got something that might help." He disappeared into the back room and returned with a weapon that made Geralt's pulse quicken. It was a sword, if barely. The blade was 3 feet of sharpened industrial metal, crude but functional, with a grip wrapped in wire for traction. Not silver, not even good steel. But it was a blade, and after days without one, Geralt felt something settle back into place in his chest. "Lost this in a gambling debt collection last year," Tanner said, handing it over. "Figure you got more use for it than me. Consider it an advance." Geralt tested the weight, the balance. Heavy, crude, but the edge was sharp and the metal was solid. He'd worked with worse. "I'll bring you your proof." "Emperor willing, you'll come back at all," Tanner muttered. "The entrance to the deep vents is through the old transit tunnels, 4th junction east of here. Once you're in the processing station, follow the smell. Whatever's down there, it's been feeding regular." Geralt nodded and turned to leave, but Tanner's voice stopped him. "Hey, stranger, those eyes of yours, you some kind of sanctioned mutant, gene-bred warrior stock?" "Something like that," Geralt replied, which was true enough. He left the workshop with a sword on his hip and a hunt ahead of him. The familiar weight of purpose settled across his shoulders. Different world, different monsters, but the fundamentals remained the same. Track the prey, learn its patterns, exploit its weaknesses, collect payment. As he descended toward the deep vents, following Tanner's directions through increasingly desolate passages, Geralt found himself almost smiling. The galaxy might be incomprehensible, the technology beyond his understanding, and the scale of human civilization here utterly alien. But monsters were universal, and killing monsters was what witches did best. The entrance to the old processing station yawned before him like a throat, and from its depths came a smell that confirmed every suspicion. Rot, waste, the chemical signature of something that had claimed this space and marked it with death. Geralt drew his crude sword, felt his medallion vibrating steadily, and stepped into the darkness. The hunt had begun. The processing station's corridors stretched into darkness that even Geralt's cat eyes struggled to penetrate. His borrowed sword felt wrong in his hand, too heavy in the pommel, the balance all forward weight, but he'd adapted to worse. The medallion against his chest vibrated in steady pulses, not the frantic hammering that signaled active magic, but something else. A wrongness that pervaded the air itself, as if reality had been stained by repeated violations. The webbing started 50 feet in. It clung to the walls in thick ropes of organic matter that glistened wetly in the dim luminescence of failing glow globes. But this wasn't spider silk or necker secretions. The material had a crystalline quality, almost geometric in places, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. Geralt's Witcher training kicked in. Avoid touching unknown substances, watch for trigger points, assume everything is trapped. He moved through the corridors with practiced silence, reading the space like a hunter reads forest trails. Scratch marks on the walls, deep gouges that spoke of claws or talons, dark stains that could have been blood or ichor, dried in patterns that suggested violent struggles. And everywhere, that smell, not just rot, but something underneath it, something that triggered primal warnings in his hindbrain. The first body hung 20 feet above the floor, wrapped in the crystalline webbing and suspended from a junction of pipes. Geralt studied it from below, noting the way the corpse had been harvested. The chest cavity gaped open, ribs spread like the petals of some obscene flower. Whatever had killed this person had been methodical, surgical even, taking specific organs and leaving the rest to rot. His medallion's vibration intensified. Geralt pressed forward, mapping the station in his mind. The main processing chamber would be central, where the machinery concentrated and provided the most hiding places. That's where predators nested, close to water sources with multiple escape routes and enough ambient noise to mask their movements. He found the first living victim in what had been a storage alcove. The man hung in webbing like the corpse above, but his eyes moved when Geralt approached, tracking with the desperate intensity of someone clinging to consciousness through agony. The webbing covered everything below his neck, and where it touched bare skin, Geralt saw something that made his blood run cold. The flesh was changing, crystallizing, growing hard ridges that caught the light like faceted gems. The transformation spread slowly, almost imperceptibly, but Geralt had seen enough curses to recognize one in progress. This wasn't simple mutation, it was conversion. Whatever substance composed the webbing was rewriting the victim at a cellular level. "Kill me," the man rasped, his voice barely human. "Please, it's in my head. Can't stop." Geralt's hand tightened on his sword. Mercy killings were part of a witcher's work. Sometimes there was no cure, no salvation, only the kindness of a quick death. But he needed information first. "What did this to you?" he asked quietly. The man's eyes focused with effort. "Not what, who. She promises unity, purpose, freedom from the grinding wheel." His face contorted in something between ecstasy and agony. Father calls from beyond the stars. He loves us. He wants us to be perfect." The words sent ice through Geralt's veins. He'd heard that kind of talk before, from people touched by demons, their minds rewritten by entities that promised power and delivered damnation. But this felt different, more organized, more purposeful. "Where is she?" Geralt pressed. "Below, in the heart, where the machines sleep." The man's eyes rolled back. "Go back. Save yourself. She'll make you perfect too, whether you want it or not." The man's body convulsed once, then went still. The crystallization accelerated, spreading across his face, turning flesh to mineral in seconds. Within moments, what had been a person became a statue of impossible geometry, as beautiful as it was horrifying. Geralt backed away slowly, mind racing. This wasn't a simple beast hunt. This was organized corruption, the kind that spread through populations like plague. He'd seen it in villages touched by cursed artifacts or demonic pacts. The symptoms were always the same: promises of something better, slow transformation, loss of self until nothing remained but the servant of something alien. The medallion burned against his chest now, hot enough to hurt. He descended deeper into the station, following the increasing density of webbing. The corridors opened into the main processing chamber, a cathedral of industrial machinery stretching hundreds of feet in every direction. Massive pipes, thick as castle towers, ran floor to ceiling. Promethium tanks the size of houses sat dormant, their contents long since drained. And everywhere, covering every surface like a second skin, the crystalline webbing pulsed with inner light. At the chamber's center stood a woman. She wore the tattered remains of workers' overalls, but her skin had undergone the same transformation as the cocooned victims, sections of flesh replaced by crystalline carapace that glowed with bioluminescence. Her arms ended not in hands, but in blade-like appendages that dripped with the webbing substance. Most disturbing were her eyes. compound lenses that reflected Geralt's image 1,000 times over, each one tracking him independently. But it was what stood behind her that made Geralt's hand tighten on his sword. 3 figures, each nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies grotesque amalgamations of human and something else. Elongated heads that came to ridged points, extra arms that terminated in claws designed for rending, skin that shifted between pale flesh and chitinous armor. They moved with predatory grace, staying close to the woman like guards protecting royalty. "Another lost soul," the woman said, her voice carrying harmonics that shouldn't have been possible with a human throat. "Come to die in the darkness like the others, or have you come seeking salvation?" Geralt settled into a fighting stance, sword raised. "I've come to kill you. Nothing personal, just business." The woman laughed, and the sound echoed through the chamber with crystalline resonance. "Kill me? You don't understand. We are beyond death. We are the future of humanity. The Father of 4 arms calls to us from beyond the void, and we answer with joy." She spread her blade arms wide. "Join us. Become perfect. Or die resisting the inevitable." "I've heard that speech before," Geralt said coldly. "Different demons, same promises. It always ends the same way, with me collecting a bounty and you bleeding out on the floor." The woman's expression shifted to something that might have been pity. "You poor blind thing. You still think in terms of coin and contract. But we offer so much more. Unity, purpose, a place in the grand design of the Star Children." Her guard creatures moved forward, and Geralt saw how they traveled, scuttling across walls and ceiling with impossible adhesion, their movements fluid and alien, not quite human anymore, not quite whatever they were becoming. Caught in transition, which meant their instincts would be confused, their coordination imperfect. Weaknesses. Every creature had them. He just needed to survive long enough to find them. The woman raised her blade arms, and the webbing throughout the chamber began to pulse with increased intensity. "The Father provides for his children. Let me show you his gifts." More figures emerged from the shadows. Workers, salvagers, people who'd come to this place seeking fortune and found transformation instead. Some still looked mostly human. Others had progressed further, their bodies twisted into forms that served alien purposes. All of them moved with the coordinated precision of a hive mind, and all of them had eyes locked on Geralt. The Witcher calculated quickly, 20 hostiles, maybe more. Unknown capabilities, confined space favoring ambush tactics, no potions, no signs, just a crude sword and 3 centuries of experience. He'd fought worse odds, barely. "Last chance," the woman called out. "Accept the Father's love, or die fighting the inevitable tide." Geralt's response was to trace a quick pattern with his left hand, an old Witcher sign that didn't require his silver sword to focus. Ard. The telekinetic blast erupted from his palm with concussive force, slamming into the nearest guard creature and sending it flying backward into the industrial machinery. The woman's eyes widened in genuine surprise. You have the gift, but you're not one of us. How?" Geralt didn't wait for her to finish. He charged forward, sword leading, into a fight that would test every skill he'd earned in 300 years of hunting monsters. The fight erupted with brutal intensity. Geralt moved through the cultists like a scythe through wheat, his enhanced reflexes turning their coordinated assault into manageable chaos. The first attacker lunged with crystallized claws, but Geralt sidestepped, brought his crude sword down across the back of its neck, felt bone and chitin crack under the impact. The creature fell, ichor spraying from the wound in patterns that seemed to defy gravity. 2 more came from different angles. Good tactical thinking, but their transformed bodies moved with slight delays, neural pathways still adapting to alien geometries. Geralt spun low, hamstrung one with a horizontal slash, then drove his pommel into the other's compound eyes with enough force to shatter the crystalline lenses. It shrieked in a frequency that made his ears ring, stumbling backward. The woman with blade arms watched from her position, not attacking, simply observing with those thousand-eyed lenses, studying him, learning his patterns. Smart, dangerously smart. Geralt kept moving, never staying in one position long enough for them to surround him completely. He used the industrial machinery as cover, ducking behind Prometheum tanks and pipe junctions, forcing them to come at him in smaller numbers. The crude sword was holding up better than expected. Whatever metal they used in this place, it had edge retention that rivaled dwarven steel. A cultist dropped from the ceiling directly above him. Geralt saw it in his peripheral vision, twisted sideways, let it crash into empty space where he'd stood a heartbeat before. He brought the sword up in a rising cut that opened the creature from groin to throat, then kicked the dying body into two more attackers, buying himself precious seconds. His medallion burned like a hot coal against his chest. Not from the cultists themselves. They weren't magical in the traditional sense, but from something else. Something watching from beyond reality, feeding power into its pawns, sustaining them past the point where flesh and blood should have failed. "Impressive," the woman called out, her voice carrying that crystalline harmony. "You fight like you've done this before, hunted things that shouldn't exist. But you can't win, stranger. The Father's love is infinite, and his children are legion." More figures emerged from the shadows, not cultists this time, but something worse. Pure strain creatures, fully transformed, bearing no trace of humanity in their elongated skulls and extra limbs. These moved with perfect coordination, no hesitation, no delay between thought and action. These were the finished product of whatever corruption had claimed this place. Geralt assessed the situation in a fraction of a second and realized he couldn't fight through them all. Not here, not in an open space that gave them every advantage. Time for a tactical withdrawal. He traced another odd sign, focusing the telekinetic force not at the enemies, but at a massive pipe junction overhead. The blast tore metal from moorings that had held for centuries. Hundreds of pounds of industrial infrastructure came crashing down, creating a barrier between him and the cultists, buying him seconds. Geralt ran, moving deeper into the processing station, looking for a defensive position or a route to higher ground. Behind him came the sounds of pursuit, claws on metal, inhuman hissing, and that woman's voice calling out promises of unity and perfection. He found stairs, metal grating that spiraled upward toward the station's second level, and took them 3 at a time. His enhanced stamina let him maintain a pace that would have killed a normal man, but even Witcher endurance had limits. He needed to end this fight on his terms, not theirs. The second level was a maze of catwalks and observation platforms overlooking the main chamber. Geralt chose his ground carefully, a junction point with limited approaches and solid metal railings that would funnel attackers. He turned to face the stairs just as the first pure strain creature crested the top. It was faster than the transitional cultists, its alien musculature giving it speed that seemed to blur the air. But Geralt had fought fast opponents before. He waited until it committed to its strike, then sidestepped at the last possible instant, let its momentum carry it past him, and brought his sword down on the back of its elongated skull. The blade bit deep, severed whatever served as its spine, and the creature collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. 3 more came up behind it, moving in perfect synchronization. Geralt traced an Igni sign, fire, the oldest and simplest weapon against things that crawled from darkness. Flames erupted from his palm, not the sustained gout he could manage with potions and preparation, but enough. The lead creature caught fire, its chitinous armor crackling and blackening. It shrieked and fell backward into its companions, creating a domino effect on the narrow stairs. But they kept coming. That was the problem with hive-minded enemies. They didn't fear death because they didn't truly comprehend it as individuals. They were cells in a larger organism, expendable, and infinite. Geralt's sword arm was beginning to tire. The crude weapon was heavier than his silver blade, requiring more muscle with each swing. He'd killed at least 15 of them, maybe 20, but they kept emerging from the shadows like a tide that couldn't be stemmed. The woman with blade arms appeared on the catwalk across from him, standing on the railing with impossible balance. "You're strong," she called out. "Skilled. Precisely the kind of genetic material the Father needs. Stop fighting. Let us perfect you. Imagine what you could become with the Star Children's gifts added to your mutations." "I've seen what I'd become," Geralt replied, breathing hard. "Dead, or worse than dead. I'll pass. Then you'll die here, in the dark, and no one will remember you." The woman cocked her head, compound eyes glittering. "The Father shows me your fate. I see you broken, transformed, serving willingly. It's inevitable." Geralt noticed something then, a detail his Witcher training flagged as important. The woman stayed at a distance. She commanded, directed, but didn't engage directly, and around her, the webbing pulsed in rhythm with her breathing. She wasn't just infected by whatever corruption had claimed this place. She was the conduit, the node through which the hive mind operated. Kill the queen, scatter the drones. Simple predator ecology, applicable across 1,000 different species. He just needed to reach her. Geralt feinted toward the stairs, drew 3 more pure strains into striking range, then launched himself over the railing. He fell 20 feet, hit the lower catwalk in a controlled roll that turned falling momentum into forward motion, and came up sprinting toward the woman's position. She saw him coming, those compound eyes tracking his every movement. Her blade arms rose, ready to strike, but Geralt had fought enough monsters to recognize defensive posturing. She was a coordinator, not a warrior. Strong, fast maybe, but not trained, not experienced. He closed the distance in seconds, ducked under her wild slashes, and drove his crude sword through her torso with enough force to punch through crystallized armor and embed the blade in the metal railing behind her. The woman gasped, ichor bubbling from her lips, but instead of dying, she smiled. "Fool, I'm not the source, just one of many." Her body began to collapse inward, flesh liquefying, running down the blade like water. The Father already calls. Another. The webbing throughout the chamber pulsed once, twice, then went dark. The cultists on the catwalk stumbled, their coordinated movements suddenly uncoordinated. Some fell. Others simply stopped moving, as if whatever puppet strings had animated them had been cut. The pure strains hissed in confusion, their perfect synchronization broken. Geralt pulled his sword free and ran. He didn't know how long this disruption would last. Minutes, maybe seconds. But it was the opening he needed. He retraced his path through the processing station at full sprint, his Witcher endurance pushing past the point where normal men would collapse. Behind him, he heard the cultists beginning to reorganize. Whatever hive mind controlled them was reasserting control, routing through different nodes, adapting. But Geralt had broken their first assault, killed their local coordinator, and bought himself time. He emerged from the processing station into the relative safety of the Underhive proper, covered in ichor and his own blood, sword notched and dulled from hard use, but alive. The medallion against his chest finally stopped burning, settling into a low vibration that spoke of ambient corruption rather than immediate threat. Geralt allowed himself 30 seconds to catch his breath, then started moving again. He needed to reach Tanner, deliver his report, and warn the Underhive that something far worse than simple monsters had taken root in the deep dark. He'd fought demons and curses across a dozen kingdoms, but this was different, more insidious, more organized. And if that woman's final words were true, if she was just one of many coordinators, then this infection ran deeper than a single nest. The question was, did the authorities in this bizarre galaxy have any idea what they were facing? Or was Geralt the only one who recognized the signs of an infestation that could consume this entire hive if left unchecked? Either way, he'd need better weapons, better information, and answers to questions he didn't even know to ask yet. The hunt, it seemed, was just beginning. Geralt reached Tanner's workshop 3 hours later, moving through the underhive with the careful paranoia of a man who'd just glimpsed something that shouldn't exist. Every shadow seemed deeper, every distant sound carried potential threat. His medallion maintained its low vibration, a constant reminder that whatever corruption he'd found wasn't isolated to the processing station. Tanner took one look at him, ichor-stained, bleeding from a dozen minor wounds, sword notched and crusted with dried alien fluids, and immediately poured 2 glasses of something that smelled like industrial solvent mixed with grain alcohol. "Emperor's mercy," the salvager breathed. "You actually went down there, and you came back." Geralt downed the drink in one swallow, felt it burn all the way down, then set the glass on the workbench with deliberate care. "Your crew. They didn't just stumble onto a predator's nest. They found a cult." Tanner's face went pale. "Cult? What kind of—" "The kind that worships something from beyond the stars. The kind that transforms people into—" Geralt paused, searching for words to describe what he'd seen. "Into something that isn't human anymore. They called it the Father. 4 arms, star children. Any of that mean anything to you?" The glass in Tanner's hand shattered. He didn't seem to notice the alcohol soaking his sleeve or the blood from where shards had cut his palm. His eyes had gone wide with a terror that transcended simple fear. 4 arms, he whispered. "Oh, throne. Oh, golden throne. You're talking about genestealers." "Gene what?" Tanner grabbed Geralt by the shoulders, his grip iron-tight despite the bleeding hand. "Listen to me very carefully. If what you found down there is what I think it is, we're not talking about monsters or mutants. We're talking about a xenos infestation, an alien species that infiltrates human populations, breeds with them, creates hybrids, and spreads until entire worlds fall." His voice cracked. "And if they've established a cult in Rust Bottom, we're already dead. We just don't know it yet." Geralt processed this, fitting it into frameworks he understood. Parasitic infiltrators, reproductive strategy based on host conversion, hive-mind coordination. Similar to some of the more insidious creatures from his world. Bruxa colonies, vampires, certain types of cursed bloodlines. But the scale Tanner was describing. "How do you fight them?" Geralt asked. "You don't, not at the underhive level. You report it to the Arbites, the law enforcement, and pray they take it seriously enough to sterilize the entire sector." Tanner released Geralt's shoulders, began pacing. "But that's if they believe us. If they don't, if they think we're just spouting madness or trying to avoid work quotas." He trailed off, but Geralt understood. Bureaucracy killed more people than monsters ever did. He'd seen it in every kingdom he'd traveled. Reports ignored, warnings dismissed, until the problem grew too large to contain and entire villages paid the price. "Where are these Arbites?" Geralt asked. 3 levels up, in the mid-hive administrative sector. "But they won't listen to someone like you. No credentials, no identification, showing up covered in xenos ichor." Tanner's mind was working now, running through calculations. "We need proof. Something they can't dismiss. You said you killed the cult leader?" "One of them. She said there were others." Tanner cursed viciously. "Multi-node infestation. That means it's been growing for years, maybe decades. We need to—" He stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening. "Wait, you killed a hybrid coordinator? With what? That piece of scrap metal I gave you?" "And this." Geralt raised his left hand, traced the pattern for Igni. Flames erupted from his palm, controlled and focused, illuminating the workshop with orange light. Tanner stumbled backward, crashed into his workbench, scattered tools across the floor. "Witch, you're a psyker, unsanctioned, unregistered." "I'm not whatever that is," Geralt interrupted, dismissing the flames. "Where I come from, this is called a sign. Simple magic. Controlled. Nothing to do with demons or possession." "Magic is possession." Tanner's hand had moved to something under his workbench. A weapon, Geralt assumed. "The warp corrupts. Psykers who aren't sanctioned by the Imperium become doorways for demons. You're a threat to every living soul in this hive." Geralt's hand didn't move toward his sword. He kept his posture relaxed, non-threatening, even as he calculated distances and response times. "I've been using these abilities for 300 years. No possession, no corruption. I hunt the things that possess and corrupt. That's my job." 300? Tanner's expression shifted from fear to confusion. "That's not possible. Even with Juvenat treatments, no one lives that long without..." He stopped, studied Geralt with new intensity. "What are you?" "A witcher, a professional monster hunter, created through mutation and training to kill things that prey on humans." Geralt met Tanner's eyes steadily. "I didn't ask to come to this world. I don't understand your technology or your politics or your gods, but I understand monsters, and what's growing in that processing station will spread unless someone stops it." A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant thunder of hive machinery. Finally, Tanner's hand moved away from the hidden weapon. "The Arbites won't believe you," he said quietly. "And if they find out you're an unsanctioned psyker, they'll execute you on sight. But..." He paused, seeming to wrestle with the decision. "There's someone else, an Inquisitor's agent, been asking questions in the Underhive for the past week, looking into rumors of cult activity." Inquisitor? Think of them as investigators with absolute authority. They root out heresy, xenos corruption, demonic taint. If anyone would believe your story and have the power to act on it, it's them. Tanner grabbed a rag, began wrapping his bleeding hand. "But they're also the ones most likely to execute you for being what you are. They don't take chances with unsanctioned psykers." Geralt considered his options. In his experience, authorities with absolute power tended toward the extremes, either brilliantly effective or catastrophically corrupt. But the alternative was doing nothing while an alien infestation spread through thousands of innocent people, not really a choice at all. "Where do I find this agent?" he asked. Tanner gave him an address in the lower mid-hive, a transit hub called the Crossroads, where information traders and black market dealers congregated. "Look for a woman calling herself Seraphine, red robes, augmetic eye, carries herself like she could kill you 6 ways before you hit the ground. She's been paying good throne for information about disappearances and strange behavior." Geralt nodded, turned to leave, then paused. "Your payment. I killed the coordinator. That should count for something." Tanner barked a harsh laugh. "Keep the throne. If you're walking into an Inquisitor's operation, you'll need coin more than I will." He met Geralt's eyes. "For what it's worth, stranger, you did more than anyone else would have. Most people would have died in that processing station, or worse." "I've had practice," Geralt said simply. He left the workshop with directions to the Crossroads and a growing understanding of just how dangerous this galaxy was. Not just the aliens and the corruption, those he could handle, but the human response to threats, the absolute certainty, the willingness to execute first and investigate never. He'd spent 300 years working in the grey spaces between good and evil, understanding that monsters often wore human faces, and humans could be more monstrous than any beast. But this Imperium seemed to have reduced everything to binary states. Loyal or traitor, pure or corrupted, human or xenos. No room for witchers who lived in the spaces between. The medallion vibrated against his chest as he climbed toward the mid-hive, passing through checkpoints where guards in carapace armor examined identification papers he didn't have. He moved through shadows, used crowds for cover, relied on 3 centuries of experience avoiding authorities who didn't appreciate his kind. The crossroads revealed itself as a massive transit junction where dozens of hive levels intersected. Thousands of people flowed through daily, making it perfect for clandestine meetings and information trading. Geralt moved through the crowds, his hood low, his senses alert for anyone matching Tanner's description. He found her in a recessed alcove, watching the crowds with the stillness of a predator waiting for prey. Red robes, augmetic eye that glowed with soft amber light, and a bearing that spoke of absolute confidence in her ability to handle violence. She saw him approaching, and Geralt noted how her hand drifted almost imperceptibly toward something hidden beneath her robes. "You're looking for information about cult activity," Geralt said without preamble. "I have it. Recent. First-hand. There are beings in the 41st millennium who hunt monsters for coin, but they're called inquisitors, and they answer only to the God Emperor. What happens when a monster hunter from another reality awakens in a galaxy where humanity itself has become monstrous? Today's tale follows a witcher, a professional killer of unnatural things, as he discovers that in the grim darkness of the far future, even his centuries of experience hunting horrors might not be enough. If you crave more tales from the Dark Millennium, hit that subscribe button and join the faithful. The Emperor protects those who stand with us against the void. Now, let us begin. Geralt of Rivia opened his eyes to darkness and the stench of promethium. His head pounded with a familiar ache, the aftermath of portal magic, though worse than any he'd experienced. The last thing he remembered was pursuing a contract through a destabilized rift near Kaer Morhen. The mage had warned him the conjunction energies were flaring again, opening doorways between worlds. He hadn't listened. Witchers rarely did when coin was involved. Now he lay on corrugated metal plating in near-total darkness, and every sense screamed wrong. The air tasted of chemicals he couldn't name, acrid, burnt, laced with something that made his mutated metabolism recoil. Distant machinery thundered like no watermill or siege engine he'd ever heard. The vibrations traveled through the metal beneath him in rhythmic pulses that spoke of mechanisms vast beyond comprehension. Geralt pushed himself upright, instinctively reaching for his silver sword. Gone. His steel sword. Gone. His potions, his bombs, even his worn leather armor had vanished, replaced by rough-spun clothing that reeked of industrial solvent. Only his Witcher medallion remained, cold against his chest, and even that felt muted, as if whatever magic animated it struggled in this place. He stood carefully, cat eyes adjusting to the gloom. What he saw defied reason. He stood in an alley, if it could be called that, carved between structures that soared upward into darkness so complete even his enhanced vision couldn't penetrate it. But these weren't buildings of stone or timber. Metal and rockcrete formed impossible angles, surface covered in rust and grime that spoke of centuries of neglect. Pipes as thick as ancient oaks ran along walls, dripping substances that hissed when they struck puddles below. Strange symbols had been painted everywhere, crude warnings in languages he didn't recognize, though some triggered odd associations in his mind. Skulls. Lots of skulls. The scale was all wrong. The structures rose hundreds of feet, maybe thousands, disappearing into a ceiling. No, a sky that glowed with sickly orange luminescence. Not sunlight, not torchlight. Something artificial and perpetual, casting the world in shades of rust and shadow. Geralt's medallion trembled against his chest. Magic, but not like any he'd encountered. This felt tainted, aggressive, as if reality itself had been wounded here and the infection had never healed. Movement in the darkness ahead. 3 figures emerged from a side passage, and Geralt's hand dropped to his empty belt where his silver sword should have hung. They were human, barely. Each stood hunched beneath tattered robes that might have once been white, but now bore the stains of the underhive. Skin showed through gaps in the fabric, pale and lesioned, marked with growths that looked disturbingly like the mutations he'd seen on victims of ancient curses. But these weren't cursed. They were evolved, wrong in ways that made his Witcher senses scream danger. One of them clutched a metal pipe wrapped in barbed wire. Another held what might have been a gun, crude, oversized, looking more like a blacksmith's nightmare than any weapon he'd seen. The third simply flexed hands that ended in claws too long and sharp to be natural. They saw him. Yellow eyes gleamed in the half-light, and lips pulled back from teeth filed to points. Fresh meat, one rasped in a language Geralt shouldn't have understood but somehow did, as if the words bypassed his ears and carved meaning directly into his brain. Ain't dressed proper, ain't marked, must be lost. Lost means no gang, another hissed. No gang means free prey. Geralt settled into a fighting stance, empty hands raised. No swords, no signs prepared. Just his speed, his strength, and 300 years of experience killing things that should have been impossible. The mutants charged, and Geralt moved. His enhanced reflexes made their attack seem almost slow. He sidestepped the pipe wielder, caught the weapon arm, and broke it with a twist that sent bone through skin. The gunman fired, a thunderous roar that lit the alley with muzzle flash. But Geralt had already moved, the crude bullets sparking off metal where he'd stood a heartbeat before. He closed the distance, drove his elbow into the shooter's throat, crushed the windpipe. The clawed mutant proved faster. It raked at his chest, and Geralt felt the sting of torn flesh even as he grabbed the thing's wrist and snapped it backwards. The mutant howled but kept fighting with its other hand, showing resilience that spoke of something beyond human. Geralt ended it with a knee to the spine and a precise strike to the base of the skull. Silence returned to the alley, broken only by his measured breathing and the distant thunder of machinery. 3 bodies lay at his feet, and Geralt stared at his bloodied hands. He'd killed men before, monsters wearing human skin, but these had been human once. He'd seen the remnants of it in their bone structure, the way their muscles attached despite the mutations. Something had changed them, twisted them into predators for the underhive. Geralt knelt and searched the bodies, taking the most intact robe to cover himself and claiming the crude gun. He checked its mechanism with practiced efficiency. Simple firing mechanism, chemical propellant, solid projectile. Primitive by some standards, brutally effective by others. The medallion vibrated harder against his chest. Magic nearby. Strong magic, and getting stronger. Geralt looked up into the darkness above, toward that sickly orange glow, and understood with growing dread that this wasn't a city. This was something much worse. He stood in the depths of a structure so vast that weather systems formed in its upper reaches. A hive. A place where humanity had been compressed and stacked until it forgot what sunlight looked like. And somewhere above, in levels he couldn't yet imagine, powers were at work that made the wild hunt seem like children playing at war. The Witcher checked his stolen gun, pulled the tattered robe tighter, and started walking toward what he hoped was civilization. In 300 years of hunting monsters, he'd learned one essential truth. When you wake up somewhere new, find the local contracts board. Every society had monsters that needed killing, and monsters meant coin. He just needed to figure out what counted as monstrous in a place like this. Geralt followed the sounds of habitation deeper into the underhive, his Witcher senses mapping a world that defied everything he knew about human settlement. The passages twisted and branched like the root system of some cancerous tree, each junction marked with crude symbols painted in substances he didn't want to identify. The air grew thicker as he descended, heavy with chemical fog that would have choked a normal man. His mutated lungs filtered the worst of it, but even he felt the burn. The first true settlement he found called itself Rust Bottom, a name scratched into a corroded metal arch spanning the entrance to a cavern carved from the hive's superstructure. Hab units clung to the walls like barnacles, connected by swaying bridges of chain and cable. Thousands of people lived here in the perpetual twilight, their lives measured in shifts and ration cards, never seeing sky or sun. Geralt moved through the crowds with practiced anonymity, keeping the hood of his stolen robe low. He noted everything: the way people walked with heads down, how they flinched from anyone wearing colors that might denote gang affiliation, the hollow look in eyes that had stopped expecting better. These weren't peasants ground down by war or famine. These were people who'd been born into grinding poverty and would die in it, generation after generation, until the concept of better became meaningless. A market sprawled across what might have once been a transit hub. Stalls constructed from scavenged metal offered goods that ranged from unidentifiable protein bars to reclaimed technology that hummed with uncertain power. Geralt studied the merchants, reading their body language, understanding the social dynamics. Some things translated across worlds: desperation, greed, fear. These were universal currencies. He approached a stall where an old woman sold information along with her questionable meat skewers. Her eyes were milky with cataracts, but she tracked his approach with the precision of someone who'd learned to read threats through other senses. "Don't know your colors," she said without preamble, her voice like metal scraping stone. "Ain't from any gang I recognize. That makes you either stupid brave or genuine stupid." "Neither," Geralt replied, his voice a low rasp. "Just lost. Looking for work." The woman barked a laugh that turned into a wet cough. "Work? Down here? What kind of work you think we got that needs—" She squinted at him, leaning forward. "Emperor's teeth, what are you? Those eyes ain't natural. You some kind of abhuman." Geralt had no idea what an abhuman was, but he recognized the tone. Suspicion mixed with fear. Time for a gamble. "I kill things. Dangerous things. Things that prey on people who can't fight back. Someone here must need that." The old woman studied him for a long moment, then spat into a rusted can beside her stall. "Killers we got plenty of, but you say you hunt dangerous things?" She gestured toward the deeper darkness beyond the settlement. 3 cycles ago, Tanner's crew went into the deep vents looking for salvage. 2 came back, claimed something down there tore the others apart. Big, fast, smart enough to set ambushes. "What did it look like?" Geralt asked, his interest sharpening. They was too busy running to get a good look, but they said it moved wrong, all angles and joints bending ways they shouldn't, and the sounds it made. The old woman shuddered. "Not natural, not human, maybe not even from this world, if you believe the mad preachers." Geralt felt a cold certainty settle in his gut. He knew those descriptions. Different worlds, same monsters, things that violated natural law by existing. This Tanner, where can I find him? Workshop 3 levels down, but he ain't paying much. Most folk won't even take the job. She looked at him with something almost like pity. "You really planning to go after it?" "It's what I do," Geralt said simply. The old woman made the sign of the Aquila, a gesture Geralt didn't recognize but filed away for later. "Emperor protects the foolish, or so they say. You want my advice? Get yourself a proper weapon first. That autogun you're hiding ain't gonna do much against what lives in the deep dark." Geralt found Tanner in a workshop that smelled of industrial lubricant and welded metal. The man was built like a bull, arms thick with muscle earned through decades of heavy salvage work. Scars crossed his face in patterns that spoke of close calls with machinery, or worse. Tanner looked up from a half-disassembled piece of equipment when Geralt entered. his expression moving from curiosity to suspicion in a heartbeat. "If you're here to scavenge my shop, I got 4 men in the back room and they're all armed." "I'm here about your missing crew," Geralt said. "The old woman at the market told me you had a problem in the deep vents." Tanner's face went hard. "That was 3 cycles ago. Those boys are dead. Already said prayers to the Emperor for their souls." "Maybe. But the thing that killed them is still down there, still hunting." Geralt met the man's eyes steadily. "And it won't stop until something stops it." "And you think you're that something?" Tanner barked a harsh laugh. "Listen, stranger, I don't know what rock you crawled out from under, but things in the deep dark don't die easy. We're talking about mutants, genestealers maybe, or worse. You'd need a kill team to—" "I've killed worse," Geralt interrupted. His voice carried the weight of centuries, the absolute certainty of a professional who knew his craft. "I just need to know where and what you're paying." Tanner studied him for a long moment, then seemed to reach a decision. He crossed to a workbench and pulled out a data slate, a thin piece of technology that glowed with inner light. He tapped it several times, and a crude map appeared. "Here, old Prometheum processing station, been abandoned 40 years. Whatever's down there has made it a lair. Survivors said they found nests, organic material webbed across the walls." Geralt felt his medallion tremble against his chest. Organic webbing, ambush predator, intelligent enough to build killing grounds. The pattern matched dozens of creatures from his world: Neckers, Endragas, arachnomorphs. Different names, same behavioral profile. "Payment?" he asked. "Bring me proof it's dead. A head would do, and I'll give you 500 throne gelt. That's more than most people down here see in a year." Tanner paused. "And if you're serious about this, I got something that might help." He disappeared into the back room and returned with a weapon that made Geralt's pulse quicken. It was a sword, if barely. The blade was 3 feet of sharpened industrial metal, crude but functional, with a grip wrapped in wire for traction. Not silver, not even good steel. But it was a blade, and after days without one, Geralt felt something settle back into place in his chest. "Lost this in a gambling debt collection last year," Tanner said, handing it over. "Figure you got more use for it than me. Consider it an advance." Geralt tested the weight, the balance. Heavy, crude, but the edge was sharp and the metal was solid. He'd worked with worse. "I'll bring you your proof." "Emperor willing, you'll come back at all," Tanner muttered. "The entrance to the deep vents is through the old transit tunnels, 4th junction east of here. Once you're in the processing station, follow the smell. Whatever's down there, it's been feeding regular." Geralt nodded and turned to leave, but Tanner's voice stopped him. "Hey, stranger, those eyes of yours, you some kind of sanctioned mutant, gene-bred warrior stock?" "Something like that," Geralt replied, which was true enough. He left the workshop with a sword on his hip and a hunt ahead of him. The familiar weight of purpose settled across his shoulders. Different world, different monsters, but the fundamentals remained the same. Track the prey, learn its patterns, exploit its weaknesses, collect payment. As he descended toward the deep vents, following Tanner's directions through increasingly desolate passages, Geralt found himself almost smiling. The galaxy might be incomprehensible, the technology beyond his understanding, and the scale of human civilization here utterly alien. But monsters were universal, and killing monsters was what witches did best. The entrance to the old processing station yawned before him like a throat, and from its depths came a smell that confirmed every suspicion. Rot, waste, the chemical signature of something that had claimed this space and marked it with death. Geralt drew his crude sword, felt his medallion vibrating steadily, and stepped into the darkness. The hunt had begun. The processing station's corridors stretched into darkness that even Geralt's cat eyes struggled to penetrate. His borrowed sword felt wrong in his hand, too heavy in the pommel, the balance all forward weight, but he'd adapted to worse. The medallion against his chest vibrated in steady pulses, not the frantic hammering that signaled active magic, but something else. A wrongness that pervaded the air itself, as if reality had been stained by repeated violations. The webbing started 50 feet in. It clung to the walls in thick ropes of organic matter that glistened wetly in the dim luminescence of failing glow globes. But this wasn't spider silk or necker secretions. The material had a crystalline quality, almost geometric in places, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. Geralt's Witcher training kicked in. Avoid touching unknown substances, watch for trigger points, assume everything is trapped. He moved through the corridors with practiced silence, reading the space like a hunter reads forest trails. Scratch marks on the walls, deep gouges that spoke of claws or talons, dark stains that could have been blood or ichor, dried in patterns that suggested violent struggles. And everywhere, that smell, not just rot, but something underneath it, something that triggered primal warnings in his hindbrain. The first body hung 20 feet above the floor, wrapped in the crystalline webbing and suspended from a junction of pipes. Geralt studied it from below, noting the way the corpse had been harvested. The chest cavity gaped open, ribs spread like the petals of some obscene flower. Whatever had killed this person had been methodical, surgical even, taking specific organs and leaving the rest to rot. His medallion's vibration intensified. Geralt pressed forward, mapping the station in his mind. The main processing chamber would be central, where the machinery concentrated and provided the most hiding places. That's where predators nested, close to water sources with multiple escape routes and enough ambient noise to mask their movements. He found the first living victim in what had been a storage alcove. The man hung in webbing like the corpse above, but his eyes moved when Geralt approached, tracking with the desperate intensity of someone clinging to consciousness through agony. The webbing covered everything below his neck, and where it touched bare skin, Geralt saw something that made his blood run cold. The flesh was changing, crystallizing, growing hard ridges that caught the light like faceted gems. The transformation spread slowly, almost imperceptibly, but Geralt had seen enough curses to recognize one in progress. This wasn't simple mutation, it was conversion. Whatever substance composed the webbing was rewriting the victim at a cellular level. "Kill me," the man rasped, his voice barely human. "Please, it's in my head. Can't stop." Geralt's hand tightened on his sword. Mercy killings were part of a witcher's work. Sometimes there was no cure, no salvation, only the kindness of a quick death. But he needed information first. "What did this to you?" he asked quietly. The man's eyes focused with effort. "Not what, who. She promises unity, purpose, freedom from the grinding wheel." His face contorted in something between ecstasy and agony. Father calls from beyond the stars. He loves us. He wants us to be perfect." The words sent ice through Geralt's veins. He'd heard that kind of talk before, from people touched by demons, their minds rewritten by entities that promised power and delivered damnation. But this felt different, more organized, more purposeful. "Where is she?" Geralt pressed. "Below, in the heart, where the machines sleep." The man's eyes rolled back. "Go back. Save yourself. She'll make you perfect too, whether you want it or not." The man's body convulsed once, then went still. The crystallization accelerated, spreading across his face, turning flesh to mineral in seconds. Within moments, what had been a person became a statue of impossible geometry, as beautiful as it was horrifying. Geralt backed away slowly, mind racing. This wasn't a simple beast hunt. This was organized corruption, the kind that spread through populations like plague. He'd seen it in villages touched by cursed artifacts or demonic pacts. The symptoms were always the same: promises of something better, slow transformation, loss of self until nothing remained but the servant of something alien. The medallion burned against his chest now, hot enough to hurt. He descended deeper into the station, following the increasing density of webbing. The corridors opened into the main processing chamber, a cathedral of industrial machinery stretching hundreds of feet in every direction. Massive pipes, thick as castle towers, ran floor to ceiling. Promethium tanks the size of houses sat dormant, their contents long since drained. And everywhere, covering every surface like a second skin, the crystalline webbing pulsed with inner light. At the chamber's center stood a woman. She wore the tattered remains of workers' overalls, but her skin had undergone the same transformation as the cocooned victims, sections of flesh replaced by crystalline carapace that glowed with bioluminescence. Her arms ended not in hands, but in blade-like appendages that dripped with the webbing substance. Most disturbing were her eyes, compound lenses that reflected Geralt's image 1,000 times over, each one tracking him independently. But it was what stood behind her that made Geralt's hand tighten on his sword. 3 figures, each nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies grotesque amalgamations of human and something else. That was the Imperium's answer to xenos corruption. No compromise, no mercy, just fire and death until the infection was sterilized. Geralt had thought his world was harsh, but this galaxy made the continent look almost gentle by comparison. The purge took 6 hours. 6 hours of methodical extermination that left the processing station a scorched ruin, its corridors blackened by promethium fires, its chambers filled with the ash of what had once been human. Geralt witnessed it all with the detached professionalism of someone who'd seen too much death to be shocked by it anymore, but even he felt a hollowness at the scale. Hundreds dead, maybe thousands when you counted the fully transformed hybrids. All traces of the genestealer cult reduced to genetic ash that couldn't spawn, couldn't spread, couldn't corrupt. The Space Marines showed no emotion throughout. They simply executed their duty with mechanical precision, as if purging xenos corruption was no different from cleaning rust from armor, necessary maintenance to prevent larger problems. When it was finished, Hadrius stood in the central chamber where the patriarch had died, surrounded by his brothers, and spoke words in a language Geralt didn't recognize. The other Space Marines responded in unison, their voices creating harmonies that resonated in the ruined space. A prayer, Geralt realized, or perhaps a memorial for the enemies they'd slain. The Mortifactors honor the dead, Hadrius explained when the prayer ended. All dead, human, xenos, demon. Death is sacred, regardless of who experiences it. We acknowledge their passing, even as we ensure it occurred. He looked at Geralt. Does that seem strange to you, Witcher? No, Geralt replied honestly. Where I come from, we have rituals too. Recognition that ending a life, even a monstrous one, carries weight. He gestured at the ash-covered chamber. This was necessary, doesn't make it pleasant. Necessity rarely is. Hadrius turned to his squad. Brothers, return to the drop pods. We have 4 more cult nodes to purge before this infestation is sterilized. Move out. The Space Marines filed out in perfect formation, but Hadrius gestured for Geralt to remain. When they were alone, or as alone as you could be in armor that probably recorded everything, the brother sergeant removed his helmet. Geralt had wondered what a Space Marine looked like beneath the armor. The face that emerged was weathered, scarred, with eyes that held centuries of warfare. Not literally centuries. Hadrius looked perhaps 60 by human standards, but the weight in those eyes spoke of experiences that aged souls faster than flesh. You fought well, Hadrius said, his voice deeper without the vox grill but somehow more human. Better than I expected from an unaugmented combatant. The question now is, what do we do with you? I'm not infected, Geralt stated. Your librarian can confirm that. Brother Malachi already has. You're clean. Remarkably resistant to psychic corruption, actually. Hadrius studied him with unsettling intensity. But that's not the problem. The problem is what you are. An unsanctioned psyker with abilities that don't match any recorded mutation pattern. The Inquisition will want to study you. Dissect you, most likely. Understand how you resist corruption without their training or genetic conditioning. Geralt's hand moved fractionally toward his sword. I don't intend to be anyone's experiment. I wouldn't let you reach your weapon, Hadrius said mildly. My reflexes are enhanced beyond anything your mutations provide. I could separate your head from your shoulders before your fingers touched steel. He paused. But I'm not going to. Do you know why? Because you're curious. Because you remind me of what we once were. Hadrius sat on a chunk of fallen machinery, the gesture so unexpected that Geralt actually blinked. Space Marines didn't sit. They stood, vigilant and ready, always prepared for the next battle. Before the Imperium, before the Emperor unified terror, there were warriors like you, gene-crafted killers made to survive in hostile environments. We Astartes are just the latest iteration of that ancient idea. Take a human, make them stronger, faster, more resilient. Point them at humanity's enemies and let them kill. Geralt understood then. You're offering me a choice. I'm offering you information about your options. Hadrius's scarred face showed something that might have been respect. First option, I report you to the Inquisition exactly as I found you. They test you, study you, and probably execute you when they can't explain your abilities through their framework of understanding. You're too anomalous, too dangerous to their sense of order. Not appealing. Second option, you disappear. The Underhive is vast, full of places to hide. People vanish here constantly. I file a report stating you died during the Purge, lost to the Patriarch's final psychic assault. Hadrius met Geralt's eyes. You get to live, but you spend the rest of your existence hiding in the darkness, avoiding Imperial authorities, probably getting killed in some pointless gang war within a year. Also not appealing. Third option. Hadrius's expression shifted to something almost like a smile. You come with us. Not as an Astartes, that's impossible. The transformation can only be done on adolescents, but as an auxiliary, a specialist consultant for xenos threats that require unconventional approaches. Geralt considered this carefully. You want me to be your pet monster hunter. I want you to do what you're clearly good at, in a context where that skill is valued rather than feared. Hadrius stood, towering over Geralt once more. The Imperium is vast beyond comprehension. Millions of worlds, trillions of humans, and threats that range from the comprehensible to the utterly insane. Space Marines handle the large-scale threats, invasions, wars, apocalyptic incursions, but there are smaller problems: cult infestations, demonic possessions, xenos infiltrations, things that need a more surgical approach. You're describing exactly what witchers do, Geralt said slowly. Contract work, monster hunting, professional killing of things that prey on civilians. Exactly. Hadrius replaced his helmet, his face disappearing behind red lenses once more. The Mortifactors operate on the edges of Imperial law. We're death worshippers, bone collectors, the chapter that other chapters view with suspicion. That gives us latitude to employ unconventional assets. He gestured at Geralt. Like you. The medallion vibrated against Geralt's chest, but softly now, not danger, just ambient magic from their surroundings. He thought about his options. Return to his world, if that was even possible, meant leaving this infestation potentially unfinished, other cults spreading through other hives. Stay and hide meant wasting his abilities, living in fear. Or he could do what he'd always done, hunt monsters, just on a galactic scale. What would this position entail? Geralt asked. You accompany Mortifactors strike teams when cult activity is suspected. You provide reconnaissance, tactical analysis, and specialized combat support. We provide you with equipment, resources, and protection from Imperial authorities who'd otherwise execute you on sight. Hadrius's tone became formal. You would not be Astartes. You would not be chapter serf. You would be consultant, specialist, honored auxiliary whose skills earn him a place among the angels of death. And if I refuse? Then I file an accurate report and the Inquisition handles you as they see fit. Hadrius's voice held no threat, just statement of fact. I prefer the first option, personally. You're useful, but I won't force you. Geralt looked around the scorched chamber, at the ash of dead cultists and the shadows where purer strains had lurked. He thought about Tanner's fear, Seraphine's pragmatism, and the thousands of Underhive residents who had no idea how close they'd come to total corruption. This galaxy needed people who understood monsters, who could recognize the signs before infestations grew too large to contain, who could move in shadows and strike before the enemy consolidated power. It needed witchers, even if they didn't know that's what they needed. I have conditions, Geralt said. State them. I don't take orders that contradict my professional judgment. If I say an approach is wrong, you listen. Geralt met those red lenses steadily. I don't participate in purges where the infected can be saved. If there's a cure, we try it first. There is rarely a cure for genestealer corruption, Hadrius said. Once the genetic rewriting begins, it's irreversible. Then I recognize that and act accordingly. But I won't kill people who can still be human. Geralt's voice hardened. That's non-negotiable. Hadrius was silent for a long moment. The Codex Astartes would say your conditions demonstrate dangerous sentiment. That mercy is weakness when facing the xenos threat. The Codex Astartes isn't 300 years old and still breathing, Geralt replied. I am. My way works. Another pause. Then, acceptable. Within reason. You maintain professional discretion, and I'll advocate for measured responses when possible." Hadrius extended a gauntleted hand, enormous and capable of crushing Geralt's entire arm. "Do we have an accord, Witcher?" Geralt clasped the offered hand, feeling the restrained power in that grip. "We do." "Good. Then welcome to the Mortifactors Extended Operations Division." Hadrius's tone shifted to something almost amused. "You're going to need better equipment. That sword is an embarrassment." "Agreed," Geralt said with feeling. They left the processing station together, and Geralt felt something settle in his chest. Not quite belonging, but purpose. He'd come to this galaxy lost and confused, but he'd found what he'd always been, a professional killer of unnatural things. The scale had changed. The tools would change. The terminology was different, but monsters were universal, and someone had to hunt them. As they ascended toward where the drop pods waited, Hadrius spoke over the Vox to his chapter. "Brother Captain, this is Hadrius. The primary target is eliminated, infestation purged, minimal casualties, and I'm bringing back an auxiliary specialist for approval. Unusual case. Will require direct review." The response came immediately, a voice even deeper than Hadrius's. "Explain unusual, Brother Sergeant." "He's a 300-year-old genetically modified monster hunter from another dimension who uses magic and killed a hybrid coordinator with a piece of scrap metal. A long pause on the other end. Then, bring him in. The chapter master will want to hear this personally." And Hadrius. "Yes, Brother Captain?" "Stop collecting strays. You're worse than Brother Malachi with his servo skulls." Hadrius actually laughed. "Understood, Brother Captain. Hadrius out." He looked at Geralt. "Welcome to the Angels of Death, Witcher. Try not to embarrass us." The ascent through the hive was a revelation in scale. Geralt had thought he understood the size of this structure from his time in the Underhive, but riding in a Space Marine transport, a Thunderhawk gunship that roared through transit shafts with casual disregard for traffic laws, showed him just how wrong he'd been. The hive stretched upward for miles, literal miles of stacked humanity, each level its own city, until the architecture became incomprehensible in its vastness. And this was just one hive on one world, in a galaxy of millions. The sheer scale of human civilization here made his head spin. "First time off-world?" Hadrius asked, watching Geralt's reaction to the viewports. "First time understanding I'm on a world," Geralt replied honestly. "I thought the Underhive was the whole thing. Just bigger than any city I'd seen." "This is Hive Primus on the world of Arcus 4. Population, 40 million in this hive alone. 7 other hives across the planet. Total planetary population, 300 million, all dedicated to producing industrial equipment for the Imperial war machine." Hadrius's tone suggested he was reciting statistics he'd memorized from countless briefings. "And Arcus the 4 is considered a medium-sized hive world, nothing special." Geralt processed this, trying to fit it into any framework that made sense. 300 million people on one world, and it was considered unremarkable. How many worlds did the Imperium control? How many people existed under its banner? The numbers made comprehension impossible. They broke through into actual sky, not the sickly orange of Underhive illumination, but real atmosphere, though it was choked with industrial smog that turned everything the color of rust. Above, barely visible through the pollution, Geralt saw something that made his breath catch. Ships, enormous vessels that hung in orbit like cathedrals given flight, each one large enough to swallow entire cities. One in particular drew his attention. A Gothic nightmare of spires and gun batteries that bristled with weapons capable of leveling continents. "The Mortis Aeternum," Hadrius said, following Geralt's gaze. "Our chapter's battle barge. Home when we're not prosecuting campaigns. She's been in service for 8,000 years, and she'll be in service for 8,000 more if the machine spirits will it." The Thunderhawk angled toward that massive ship, and Geralt realized with growing understanding that he was about to leave the planet entirely. Actually travel through the void between worlds, something he'd previously thought impossible outside of portal magic and conjunction events. This galaxy made the impossible mundane. The docking bay was cavern-like, easily large enough to hold Kaer Morhen and its surrounding mountains. Dozens of other craft sat in regimented rows. Thunderhawks, drop pods, land raiders, and war machines Geralt had no names for. Tech priests in red robes tended to the vehicles with religious fervor, speaking prayers in binary as they anointed machine spirits with sacred oils. Hadrius led Geralt through corridors that spoke of age and war. The walls were decorated with bones, thousands of skulls mounted in alcoves, each one presumably taken from worthy enemies. The Mortifactors' reputation as death worshippers wasn't metaphorical. They literally collected their kills. Every skull represents a victory over death, Hadrius explained. When we take a worthy enemy's skull, we honor their service to death's cause, even as we ensure they won't serve again. Death is universal. Death is sacred. These are our prayers. Geralt understood that philosophy better than most. He'd taken trophies from contracts, proof of kills, yes, but also recognition that the creature he'd slain had been formidable enough to deserve remembrance. They passed through what Hadrius called the Chapter's Reclusium, a cathedral-like space where Space Marines knelt in prayer before an enormous aquila, the double-headed eagle that seemed to represent this Imperium's authority. The chaplain from the Purge operation stood at the altar, leading prayers in High Gothic that resonated through the chamber. "Brother Chaplain Arcturus," Hadrius said quietly. "He doesn't approve of you, thinks you're corruption waiting to happen, but he's also honor-bound to give you fair hearing before the chapter master." "Wonderful," Geralt muttered. They continued to what Hadrius called the Strategium, a command center where hololith projections displayed tactical data from across multiple sectors. A dozen Space Marines stood around the central table, each one marked with campaign badges and honor markings that spoke of centuries of service. At the table's head stood a warrior who made even Hadrius seem young. His armor was ancient, decorated with so many bones and purity seals, it seemed more relic than equipment. His face, what Geralt could see of it, was scarred beyond description, marked by wounds that should have been fatal a dozen times over. "Chapter Master Vakros," Hadrius said formally, going to one knee. "I bring an anomaly for your judgment." The chapter master's eyes, pale grey, almost colorless, fixed on Geralt with predatory intensity. The mutant psyker who killed a genestealer coordinator, Hadrius's report was creative. "Speak, anomaly. Convince me you deserve to live." Geralt didn't kneel. Not out of disrespect, but because witchers didn't kneel to anyone. Not kings, not sorceresses, not even gods, if they'd had any. "I'm a professional monster hunter from another world. I was transported here through means I don't fully understand. Since arriving, I've killed cultists, hybrid genestealers, and survived extended contact with their corruption. I have 300 years of experience identifying and eliminating supernatural threats. Your brother sergeant believes I can be useful. I agree." The Strategium went silent. Several Space Marines' hands drifted toward weapons. Apparently, not kneeling was a significant breach of protocol. But Chapter Master Vakros laughed, a sound like grinding tombstones. Arrogant, confident, either supremely skilled or supremely stupid. He circled around the table, moving with fluid grace that belied his massive size. 300 years old, impossible without extensive juvenate treatments or significant genetic modification. Yet our apothecary's scans show neither, just mutations, elegant mutations that shouldn't exist but clearly do. "My kind calls it the trial of the grasses," Geralt explained. "A transformation process that enhances humans for monster hunting. Most candidates die, Those who survive become witchers. Witchers? Vakros tested the word. I like it. Straightforward. Practical. He stopped directly in front of Geralt, looming. But here's my problem, Witcher. You use warp powers without sanction. You resist psychic corruption through unknown means. You're a walking anomaly that every inquisitor in the sector would want to dissect. Keeping you alive is a risk to my chapter. Keeping me alive is an asset, Geralt countered. I've already proven I can identify genestealer corruption before it becomes unmanageable. How many hives could have been saved if someone had recognized the signs earlier? How many purges could have been prevented? Vakros's expression shifted to something thoughtful. You're suggesting you function as early warning detection. I'm suggesting I do what I've always done. Hunt monsters before they become infestations. Track them, kill them, collect proof, get paid. Geralt met the chapter master's gaze steadily. Your Imperium is vast. You can't be everywhere, but a specialist who moves through underhives and shadows, who understands predator behavior, who can eliminate threats before they require Space Marine intervention. That has value. The chapter master turned to his assembled officers. Brothers, speak your counsel. Brother Chaplain Arcturus stepped forward, his skull-faced helmet somehow conveying disapproval despite being inanimate. He reeks of the warp. His soul is stained. He should be purged as a precautionary measure. The Codex? The Codex is a guide, not scripture, Vakros interrupted. And the Mortifactors have always walked paths other chapters fear. Brother Malachi, your assessment. The librarian who'd fought the Patriarch's psychic assault removed his helmet, revealing a face marked with tattoos that glowed faintly with psychic resonance. He's clean, remarkably so actually. His mutations provide natural resistance to warp corruption, something I've never seen outside of pariah gene structures. But he's not a blank. He's just resistant, useful if we're facing psychic threats. Brother Hadrius brought him in, another Space Marine added. Hadrius has good instincts for useful anomalies. Remember the Jokaero weaponsmith? That turned out well. The Jokaero burned down half the armory, someone else countered. But the weapons it made before that were exceptional, the first Marine argued. Geralt listened to them debate his fate with academic detachment, understanding that his life hung in balance determined by warriors who measured everything in terms of tactical utility. Finally, Vakros raised a hand for silence. Here is my judgment. The Witcher lives. He operates as an auxiliary specialist under direct supervision of Brother Sergeant Hadrius's squad. He receives equipment, training in Imperial protocol, and limited autonomy in investigation of suspected cult activity. The chapter master's voice hardened. But, first sign of corruption, first hint of warp taint, first indication he's compromised, he dies. No hesitation, no mercy. Agreed? Geralt nodded. Agreed. Good. Brother Hadrius, get him to the armory. That sword is an abomination. Brother Malachi, teach him basic Imperial culture so he doesn't accidentally commit heresy every time he opens his mouth. Brother Chaplain Arcturus, monitor his spiritual purity. Vakros's pale eyes found Geralt again. Welcome to the Mortifactors, Witcher. Try not to die in your first week. The assembled Space Marines filed out, and Geralt found himself standing in the strategium with just Hadrius and the chapter master. One more thing, Vakros said quietly. Hadrius mentioned you come from another world, another dimension perhaps. Do you intend to return? Geralt considered lying, then decided against it. If I can find a way, but I don't know if that's possible. Honest, I appreciate that. Vakros moved to the hololith display, manipulated controls, brought up what looked like astronomical charts. The warp is vast and strange. It connects dimensions as easily as it connects star systems. If you truly came through a portal, then portals exist. And if portals exist, they can be found. You'd help me return home? Geralt asked, surprised. I'd help you understand your options, Vakros corrected. A warrior who knows he has a way home fights differently than one who believes he's trapped. You have value either way, but I prefer my assets motivated by choice rather than desperation. He paused. That said, if you do find your way home, I'd ask you remember what you learned here. The enemies we face, genestealers, demons, corruption in all its forms, they don't respect dimensional boundaries. If they haven't found your world yet, they will eventually. Geralt felt cold certainty settle in his gut. You're saying my world is at risk. I'm saying every world is at risk. That's the nature of the galaxy. Vakros's expression was grim. But a witcher who understands what's coming, who can teach others to recognize the signs, that might be the difference between your world surviving or falling to the same corruption you saw in that processing station. The weight of that statement hung in the air. Geralt had spent 300 years hunting monsters on the continent, never considering that worse things might exist beyond the veil. But now he knew, and knowing changed everything. Understood, Geralt said quietly. Good, now go. Hadrius will get you equipped. We have a warp storm forming in the Ghoul stars, and early reports suggest cult activity. You'll have your first official assignment within the week. Vakros turned back to his strategic displays. And Witcher, don't disappoint me. I've defended your existence to my chapter. Make sure it's worth the effort. The armory was a cathedral dedicated to the art of killing. Weapons lined the walls in systematic arrays, each one maintained with religious devotion, blessed by tech priests, and honored through use. Geralt saw bolters of various patterns, plasma weapons that glowed with barely contained power swords whose energy fields could cut through tank armor, and stranger weapons whose purposes he couldn't even guess. The master of the forge who greeted them looked more machine than man. Augmetic limbs replaced flesh, optical implants glowed red in empty eye sockets, and mechadendrites, mechanical tentacles, extended from his back like spider legs. He spoke in a mixture of Gothic and machine code that hurt Geralt's ears. Brother Tech Marine Voss, Hadrius introduced. He'll outfit you with equipment appropriate to your role. Voss, this is Geralt, the Witcher consultant. Voss's optical implants focused on Geralt with uncomfortable intensity, scanning him with technology that made his medallion vibrate. Interesting biological augmentation, non-standard mutation patterns, enhanced musculature and skeletal density, accelerated healing factor, neural modifications that suggest psychic dampening rather than amplification. The Tech Marine's voice was flat, emotionless. Conclusion: purpose-built for sustained combat against supernatural threats. Efficient design. Thank you, Geralt replied, uncertain if that was a compliment. Statement was analytical, not praise. Voss gestured with a mechadendrite, and a servo skull floated over carrying data slates. Equipment requirements for auxiliary specialist, primary weapon, secondary weapon, armor appropriate to threat environment, utility equipment for reconnaissance operations. He fixed Geralt with those glowing red eyes. You prefer bladed weapons. Why? Training, Geralt said. 300 years of muscle memory, and swords don't run out of ammunition. Valid tactical reasoning. Voss moved to a weapon rack, his mechadendrites sorting through options with machine precision. Standard Imperial swords are designed for ceremonial use or Space Marine strength. Inappropriate for your physical parameters. Recommendation: custom fabrication based on your preferred specifications. He produced Geralt's notched, blood-stained sword, the crude weapon he'd taken from Tanner. His mechadendrites analyzed it with tools that hummed and sparked. Primitive, unbalanced, structural integrity compromised by combat stress. Voss paused. But the weight distribution matches your fighting style. Observed combat data from Brother Sergeant Hadrius shows you compensate for forward bias in strike patterns, adapting to inferior equipment. Impressive. Can you make something better? Geralt asked. Affirmative. Voss's mechadendrites began pulling components from various storage units. Monofilament-edged blade with reinforced spine, balanced for human strength parameters, grip designed for enhanced dexterity requirements, molecular bonding to prevent notching, estimated fabrication time, 6 hours. That fast? The Omnissiah provides efficiency to those who honor the machine. Voss turned his attention to a second rack. Secondary weapon. You require silver for certain threat types. Correct assumption? Geralt blinked. How did you? Analyzed residue on your equipment. Silver particles consistent with specialized anti-supernatural weaponry. Many cultures across the galaxy have discovered silver's efficacy against warp-touched entities. The Imperium uses sanctified silver in anti-demon weaponry. Voss produced a combat knife with a silver-coated blade. Not pure silver, structurally insufficient, but silver-bonded adamantium will serve your purposes. Geralt accepted the knife, tested its balance. Perfect. The weapon felt right in his hand, as if it had been made specifically for him, which he supposed it had been. Armor next, Voss continued. Carapace armor is standard for Imperial Special Operations, provides protection against small arms fire and blade weapons while maintaining mobility. He gestured, and a servo skull brought over what looked like segmented plates designed to cover vital areas without restricting movement. Not ceramite, cannot provide that level of protection without Space Marine physiology to support the weight, but adequate for your threat parameters. Geralt donned the armor with Hadrius's assistance, feeling the weight settle across his shoulders and chest. Heavier than his Witcher armor, but not uncomfortably so, and the protection it offered was substantially better than leather, even reinforced leather. Utility equipment, Voss said, moving to a storage locker. Vox bead for communications, Auspex scanner for tactical analysis, glow globes for illumination, climbing gear, melter charges for breaching operations, standard loadout for reconnaissance specialists. He piled equipment on a workbench with mechanical efficiency, each piece tagged with usage instructions and maintenance requirements. Geralt studied it all, recognizing some purposes immediately and guessing at others. One more thing, Hadrius said. Your signs, the Witcher magic. Can you use them with heavier equipment? Geralt traced an Ard pattern experimentally, felt the familiar flow of energy, released it. The telekinetic blast sent an empty weapon crate flying across the armory, crashing into the far wall with satisfying force. Affirmative, Voss said dryly. Psychic manifestation unimpeded by equipment load. Note to self, reinforce armory storage solutions. Good, Hadrius said, because where we're going next, you'll need every advantage you can get. Brother librarian Malachi found Geralt 6 hours later in what the Space Marines called the Librarium, a vast collection of written knowledge that would have made any scholar weep with joy. Thousands of books, data slates, and recovered texts lined shelves that stretched into darkness above. The chapter master ordered me to educate you in Imperial culture, Malachi said without preamble. I have 3 days before we deploy to the Ghoul Stars. That's insufficient time to convey 10,000 years of history, but I'll do my best. Geralt looked up from the data slate he'd been struggling to read. The Gothic script was similar enough to languages he knew that he could make sense of it, but the specialized terminology kept tripping him up. Start with the basics. Who's the Emperor, and why does everyone worship him? Malachi settled into a chair. Watching a Space Marine sit was still strange to Geralt, like watching a mountain decide to rest, and considered his answer carefully. The Emperor of Mankind is the most powerful psyker humanity has ever produced. 10,000 years ago, he unified Terra, our birth world, and launched the Great Crusade to reunite scattered human worlds across the galaxy. He created us, the Adeptus Astartes, to be his generals and warriors in that endeavor. Past tense, Geralt noted. What happened? Betrayal. Half of our brother legions turned to chaos, the corrupting powers of the warp. The Horus heresy nearly destroyed the Imperium. The Emperor was mortally wounded fighting his favored son. For 10 millennia, he's been sustained on the Golden Throne, neither living nor dead. His psychic might protecting humanity from warp predation. Geralt processed this. So your entire civilization worships a corpse on a throne. Malachai's eyes flashed dangerously. Choose your words carefully, Witcher. The Emperor protects. Even in his current state, his power shields humanity from annihilation. Without him, the warp would consume every human world in weeks. Not judging, Geralt said, raising his hands. Just trying to understand. In my world, dead gods tend to stay dead. Here, apparently they protect entire civilizations. The Emperor is not dead, merely transcendent. Malachai's tone suggested this was a distinction that mattered greatly. But his apparent death created problems. The Imperium he built has become something he might not recognize. Bureaucratic, dogmatic, cruel beyond necessity. The librarian's voice dropped. We fight to preserve humanity, but sometimes I wonder what we're preserving. Is this the future he wanted? Or have we built a monument to his vision while forgetting the vision itself? The honesty surprised Geralt. That's heresy, isn't it? Questioning the Imperium. That's why I speak it only in the librarium, where knowledge is sacred and questions are permitted. Malachai met Geralt's eyes. You asked for education. Here's the truth. The Imperium is necessary but imperfect. We serve because the alternatives are worse. Xenos domination, chaos corruption, extinction. But we're not blind to the cost. Geralt respected that. Malachai reminded him of sorceresses he'd known, Yennefer, Triss, people with power who understood that power's limitations. Tell me about the enemies. You mentioned chaos, genestealers. What else should I know? Where to begin? Malachai pulled up hololithic displays. Orcs, fungal xenos who exist only for war, tyrannids, extragalactic predators that consume entire worlds. Eldar, ancient aliens who view humans as primitives. Tau, expansionist xenos offering unity through their greater good. Necrons, machine entities older than human civilization. And Chaos, the 4 dark gods of the warp who corrupt everything they touch. Each image was nightmare fuel. Geralt had fought monsters across a dozen kingdoms, but this gallery of horrors made even his experiences seem quaint. And the Imperium fights all of these, simultaneously, on millions of fronts across the galaxy. Yes. Malachai's expression was grim. We're losing, slowly but inexorably. Every day worlds fall. Every year the darkness grows. The Imperium endures through sheer bloody-minded refusal to die, but endurance isn't victory. Why tell me this? Geralt asked. This seems like information you'd keep from outsiders. Because you're not really an outsider anymore. You're auxiliary to the Mortifactors, which means you're part of our brotherhood, limited as that membership might be. Malachai leaned forward. And because I sense you're a man who values truth over comforting lies, if you're going to fight beside us, you deserve to know what we're fighting for and against. Geralt nodded slowly. In my world, I hunt monsters because someone has to. Because villages need protection and people need hope that threats can be defeated. Is it the same here? Or have you all just accepted that horror is normal? Both, Malachai said honestly. We accept the horror because denying it would be fatal, but we fight anyway because the alternative, surrender, extinction, is unacceptable. He paused. Is that so different from your Witcher philosophy? No, Geralt admitted. It's exactly the same, just larger scale. They spent the next hours in the librarium. Malachi explaining imperial culture, Geralt absorbing what he could. The Aquila symbol, the concept of heresy, the role of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the structure of the Imperial Guard, the nature of the warp and why psychers were so dangerous. It was overwhelming, but Geralt had always been a quick study when survival depended on it. "One last question," he said as they prepared to leave. "Hadrius mentioned the Ghoul Stars. What are we walking into?" Malachi's expression darkened. The Ghoul Stars are a region of space corrupted by ancient xenos technology. Reality is thin there. Ships disappear. Entire fleets vanish without trace. And recently we've received reports of cult activity, strange worship of entities that don't match any known xenos profile. "Sounds like a perfect place for a witcher's first job," Geralt said dryly. "Or his last," Malachi replied. "Pack your new equipment, Witcher. We deploy at dawn, and pray to whatever gods you have that you're as capable as you claim." Geralt thought of Yennefer, of Ciri, of the path he'd walked for 3 centuries. "I don't pray, but I get the job done." "Good enough," Malachi said. "For the Mortifactors, that's all that matters." The warp translation was unlike anything Geralt had experienced, and he'd traveled through portals torn between dimensions. This was worse. So much worse. The Mortis Aeternum's Geller field, the protective bubble that kept reality intact during warp travel, held firm, but Geralt could feel what pressed against it. His medallion burned like a brand, vibrating so hard it drew blood where it pressed against his sternum. Beyond the ship's hull, entities that shouldn't exist screamed and clawed, seeking any weakness, any crack through which to pour their corruption. "First time in the warp?" Brother Malachi asked, watching Geralt's white-knuckled grip on the transport bay's restraint harness. "First time feeling demons trying to eat my soul through reality itself," Geralt managed through gritted teeth. The pressure on his mind was immense, whispers promising power, offering knowledge, threatening annihilation. His Witcher mental conditioning held, barely, but the strain was exhausting. "That's every warp journey," Hadrius said from across the bay. "You get used to it, or you go mad, usually the former." The journey to the Ghoul Stars took 3 weeks of ship time, though Malachi explained that time in the warp was non-linear. They might arrive days, weeks, or even years off their intended schedule. Navigation through hell required guesswork and prayer in equal measure. Geralt spent the transit time training with Hadrius's squad, learning Imperial combat doctrine and testing his new equipment. The sword Tech Marine Voss had crafted was perfect, balanced, sharp enough to cut through ceramite on a good swing, and weighted exactly for Geralt's enhanced strength. He named it simply Steel, after his lost blade from home. The silver combat knife he called Silver, continuing the tradition. Some things transcended dimensions. The Space Marines watched him train with professional interest, analyzing his fighting style, offering tactical suggestions that Geralt sometimes accepted and sometimes politely declined. They began to understand that witchers weren't inferior humans, just differently optimized humans, built for different threats. "You fight like you're always alone," Brother Sergeant Hadrius observed during one sparring session. "No squad tactics, no coordination patterns, just individual lethality." "Witchers work alone," Geralt explained, parrying a strike from a training servitor. "Contracts don't usually pay enough to split, and most monsters can't handle multiple enhanced humans working together." "Inefficient," Hadrius said. "But I see the reasoning. You're an ambush predator, not a line warrior. We'll need to account for that in tactical planning." The chaplain, Arcturus, remained hostile. He observed Geralt's training with undisguised suspicion, his skull-faced helmet tracking every movement. Twice, Geralt caught him speaking prayers of warding when nearby, as if Geralt's mere presence risked corruption. probably wise, Geralt thought. If their positions were reversed, he'd be suspicious too. When the ship finally translated back to real space, the change was immediate and unsettling. The pressure on Geralt's mind vanished, his medallion settling to a low vibration. But what he saw through the viewports made his blood run cold. The ghoul stars lived up to their name. Dead stars hung in the void like rotting corpses, their light sickly and wrong. Nebulae twisted in patterns that hurt to observe directly, forming shapes that suggested intention rather than natural formation. And everywhere, debris, the wreckage of ships and stations, floating testament to civilizations that had tried to claim this space and failed. Emperor's mercy, Geralt breathed. He doesn't extend it this far, Malachi said grimly. The ghoul stars are beyond the Imperium's light. Things live here that shouldn't, things that predate humanity's expansion into space. The target world was designated Mortis 7, a desolate rock with minimal atmosphere and a single settlement clinging to life in a sealed hab complex. The complex had gone silent 3 months ago. Standard procedure would be orbital bombardment, sterilize from orbit, ask questions, never. But the Inquisition had flagged this world for investigation first. Something here needed to be understood before it was destroyed. The Thunderhawk descent was through atmospheric interference that made even the seasoned pilots nervous. Lightning arced across dead storm clouds that circled the world in perpetual patterns. Geralt's medallion resumed its frantic vibration halfway down. Corruption signature confirmed, Malachi announced, his psychic senses reading the world below. Strong. Old. This isn't recent cult activity. Whatever's here has been here for a very long time. The hab complex appeared through the clouds like a scar on the landscape. Massive walls surrounded clustered structures, all built from materials that had fused together over centuries of exposure to the ghoul star's radiation. No lights. No life signs on the auspex. Just silence. They landed in the complex's central plaza, and Geralt was first down the ramp, his new armor feeling natural now, steel drawn and ready. The Space Marines followed in disciplined formation, bolters tracking potential threats. The silence was absolute, oppressive, like the weight of centuries pressing down on the present. Thermals show nothing, one of the Marines reported. Either the complex is abandoned or whatever's here doesn't register as living. Geralt knelt, examined the ground. Dust covered everything, thick layers suggesting years, maybe decades of abandonment. But beneath the dust, he saw tracks, recent tracks, relatively speaking. Something had moved through here within the past weeks. Not abandoned, he said quietly. Occupied. They're just hiding. Where? Hadrius asked, his helmet sensors sweeping the area. Geralt pointed to the largest structure, a hab tower that loomed over the complex like a skeletal finger. There, the tracks all lead that direction, and my medallion's vibrating harder when I face it. Then that's where we go. Hadrius gestured to his squad. Standard sweep pattern. Witcher, you take point. Your senses are better suited for detecting ambushes. They moved through the complex with weapons ready, passing through hab units that showed signs of hasty evacuation. Food left rotting on tables, belongings scattered as if people had fled in panic. But no bodies, no blood. Just the eerie stillness of a place where life had stopped mid-motion. Geralt's medallion grew hotter with each step, and he began to see them. Symbols carved into walls, painted on floors, scratched into every available surface. Not the crude iconography of genestealer cults. Something older, more deliberate. Stars arranged in patterns that shouldn't exist. Angles that hurt to perceive. Mathematical equations that seem to writhe when viewed directly. This isn't chaos, Malachi said, studying the symbols with his psychic senses. And it's not any xenos corruption I recognize. This is something else. They reached the hab tower's entrance. The The doors had been torn open from inside, not breached by external force, but opened by something that wanted out. Beyond lay darkness so complete that even Geralt's enhanced vision struggled. "Glow globes," Hadrius ordered. Lights activated, pushing back the darkness to reveal a scene from nightmare. The tower's interior had been transformed, walls removed, floors collapsed to create a single vast chamber that stretched upward into darkness. And hanging from the ceiling by thousands of cables, organic and metallic fused together, were the colonists, still alive. Their bodies had been changed, merged with machinery in ways that defied understanding. Cables ran through flesh, carrying substances that might have been blood or might have been something else entirely. Their eyes moved, tracking the intruders, but showed no recognition, no humanity. "Holy Throne," one of the Marines whispered. At the chamber's center stood a figure that had once been human. Now it was something else, a fusion of flesh, machine, and something alien that existed in the spaces between. It turned to face them, and when it spoke, the voice came from 1,000 throats simultaneously. "Welcome, Seekers. We have been waiting. The signal called you, as it called us. You will join. You will understand. You will become perfect, as we have become perfect." Geralt's medallion was burning hot now, and he understood with cold certainty what they faced. Not chaos corruption, not xenos infiltration. Something that had existed in the ghoul stars long before humanity arrived. Something that sought to reshape organic life according to patterns that violated every natural law. "What are you?" Malachi demanded, his force staff blazing with psychic power. The figure that had been the cult leader tilted its head in a gesture that suggested amusement. "We are the resonance. We are the song that echoes between stars. We are what remains when evolution reaches its logical conclusion." It raised arms that ended in instruments of unknown purpose. "And you are raw material, waiting to be refined." "Open fire!" Hadrius roared. The battle began, and Geralt discovered that some monsters were universal. Regardless of galaxy, regardless of origin, they all needed to be killed. He just hoped his new equipment was up to the task. Bolter fire filled the chamber with thunder, mass reactive rounds detonating against the fused colonists with devastating effect. But the damage was superficial. The merged beings simply regenerated, cables reattaching severed limbs, organic matter flowing like liquid to seal wounds that should have been fatal. "Target the central figure," Hadrius commanded. "Cut the head off the snake." The cult leader, the Resonance as it called itself, moved with fluid grace that belied its grotesque form. Cables lashed out like whips, striking with enough force to dent Space Marine armor. One caught Brother Cassius across the chest, and Geralt heard the sickening crunch of ceramite cracking. The Marine staggered but kept firing, discipline overriding pain. Geralt circled right, reading the battle with 300 years of combat experience. The Resonance was coordinating the colonists' defense, its attention split between multiple threats. Classic hive mind behavior: overwhelm it, break its concentration, and the drones would falter. He traced an odd sign and released it at the nearest cluster of cables. The telekinetic blast tore them from their moorings, sent them crashing into others, creating momentary chaos in the chamber's organized horror. The Resonance's attention snapped to him, and Geralt felt pressure like claws digging into his mind. "You are different. Mutations not of this galaxy. Origins unclear. Analysis required." The psychic assault hit like a physical blow. The Resonance tried to dissect his thoughts, understand his nature, categorize him within frameworks that didn't account for dimensional travelers. But Witcher mental conditioning held. Geralt had resisted vampires, demons, and illusion magic. This was just another predator trying to invade his mind. He pushed back with pure, stubborn refusal. and the resonance actually recoiled. Fascinating. Resistance without faith, willpower without doctrine. You are anomalous. I get that a lot, Geralt snarled, closing the distance. His sword steel sang through the air, struck cables, severed connections. Unlike bolter rounds, the blade's monomolecular edge simply cut, providing no organic matter to regenerate from. The resonance screamed, a sound that came from every colonist simultaneously, and lashed out with renewed fury. Brother Librarian Malachi stepped forward, his force staff blazing with azure light. I am the Aegis against the darkness. His psychic might crashed into the resonance like a tidal wave, disrupting the network that bound the colonists together. For a moment, Geralt saw confusion in those merged faces, human consciousness surfacing through the corruption, realizing with horror what they'd become. Then the resonance reasserted control, and the moment passed. Your psychic potential is noted, Librarian, but you rely on training, on structure. We are evolution unbound. We are synthesis without limitation. The resonance's form began to shift, cables weaving new configurations, organic matter restructuring according to alien mathematics. We improve, we adapt, we perfect. Hadrius fired his bolter at point-blank range, aiming for what might have been the creature's core. The rounds penetrated, detonated, tore massive chunks from the central mass. But instead of dying, the resonance simply incorporated the damage, used the destruction to reshape itself into something more efficient. It's learning from our attacks, Geralt realized. Every time we hurt it, it evolves a counter. We need to. Pain exploded across his back as a cable caught him from behind. The impact sent him flying, crashed him into a support pillar hard enough to crack the metal. His armor held, but barely. Geralt tasted blood, felt ribs that were bruised if not broken. He forced himself upright, saw Brother Arcturus the chaplain engaged in close combat with a cluster of colonists. The chaplain's Crozius Arcanum, a power maul crackling with energy, shattered fused bodies with each strike, but they kept coming, overwhelming through sheer numbers. The colonists are the infrastructure, Geralt shouted over the chaos. They're not victims anymore. They're the network itself. We need to sever enough connections to destabilize the whole system. Hadrius processed this in a fraction of a second. All units, switch to sustained fire, purge pattern gamma, burn the infrastructure. The heavy flamers opened up, and the chamber became an inferno. Promethium flames washed over the hanging colonists, burning cables, cooking fused flesh beyond the ability to regenerate. The screaming intensified. Not pain, Geralt realized, but something like grief. The resonance was losing parts of itself, its consciousness fragmenting as nodes were destroyed. No, the synthesis must be preserved. Evolution cannot be stopped. We are the future. But the future was burning. Geralt traced an Igni sign with both hands, channeling more power than he'd used since arriving in this galaxy. Flames erupted in a sustained gout that would have exhausted him in seconds back home. Here, with the warp so close and his enhanced stamina, he maintained it for nearly a minute, adding his fire to the Space Marines' purge. The resonance shrieked and tried to flee, cables retracting, its central mass attempting to escape deeper into the tower. But Hadrius was faster. The Brother Sergeant activated his jump pack, a technology Geralt hadn't seen used before, and launched himself upward with shocking speed. He caught the resonance mid-retreat, his power fist blazing with disruptive energy. For the Emperor and the Fallen! Hadrius drove his fist into the creature's core, the energy field disrupting the bonds that held organic and mechanical together. You end here. The resonance exploded in a spray of ichor and corrupted machinery. The psychic scream that followed made Geralt's ears bleed, but it was a death cry, not an attack. The remaining colonists collapsed like puppets with cut strings, their bodies finally surrendering to deaths that should have come long ago. Silence returned to the chamber, broken only by the crackle of dying flames and the steady breathing of Space Marines through their Vox grills. Geralt sagged against the pillar, exhausted. His armor was scorched and dented. His ribs screamed with every breath, but he was alive, and the threat was neutralized. "Status report," Hadrius commanded, landing beside the resonance's remains. "Brother Cassius has structural damage to his chest plate," one Marine reported. "Brother Valkar lost his left pauldron, minor injuries otherwise. The Witcher appears functional despite significant impact trauma." "Functional," Geralt muttered. "That's one way to put it." Malachi approached, studying the remains with professional interest. "This wasn't chaos, wasn't any xenos corruption I've encountered. This was something indigenous to the ghoul stars. Ancient technology merged with organic imperative, creating a kind of technological hive mind." "Can it be replicated?" Hadrius asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. "Almost certainly. If one colony was infected, others might be as well. The signal, it mentioned, that could be transmitting across the entire region." Malachi's expression was grim. "We need to report this to the chapter master immediately. The ghoul stars might harbor threats we haven't even categorized yet." Brother Chaplain Arcturus approached Geralt, his skull-faced helmet tilted in what might have been assessment. "You fought well, Witcher. Your warning saved brothers' lives. Your fire broke the enemy's coordination." A pause, heavy with meaning. "I was wrong to doubt your utility." Coming from Arcturus, that was high praise. Geralt nodded acknowledgement, too tired to form words. "Collect samples," Hadrius ordered. "Tech priests will want to analyze this. Then we burn the complex to bedrock. Standard sterilization protocols." As the Space Marines set charges and prepared the complex for destruction, Geralt found a quiet corner to catch his breath. His medallion had finally settled to a low vibration. The immediate threat passed. Hadrius joined him, removing his helmet to reveal that scarred, weathered face. "First mission complete. How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a battering ram," Geralt replied honestly. "But alive. The equipment held up. My signs worked as intended, and we identified a threat before it spread beyond containment." He paused. "In my line of work, that's a successful contract." "In ours too." Hadrius studied the remains of the resonance. "You were right about the colonists being infrastructure. That tactical insight probably prevented casualties, maybe even mission failure." He looked at Geralt. "The chapter master was correct to bring you in. You see patterns we miss." "Different training," Geralt said. "You're bred for war. I'm trained for hunting. Similar skills, different application." "Complementary," Hadrius corrected. "That's the word I'd use. Your abilities complement ours." He replaced his helmet. "Come on, let's get you to the apothecary. Those ribs need attention before they puncture something important." They evacuated the complex as the charges detonated, reducing centuries of corruption to molten slag. The Thunderhawk ascended through the dead storms, leaving Mortis 7 to its eternal silence. In the transport bay, Geralt finally allowed exhaustion to catch up. His first official mission with the Mortifactors was complete. He'd proven his worth, earned grudging respect from even Arcturus, and demonstrated that witchers had value even in the grim darkness of the far future. But as he drifted towards sleep, one thought nagged at him. The resonance had called them seekers, implied they'd been called by a signal. If that was true, then this wasn't an isolated incident. Something in the ghoul stars was actively drawing people in, infecting them, transforming them into nodes of a vast and ancient intelligence. One colony purged. But how many more were out there, singing that terrible song into the void? The hunt, it seemed, was far from over. The Mortis Aeternum's Apothecarian was a place of clinical efficiency where space marine physiology met medical science that bordered on the miraculous. Geralt sat on an examination slab, while an apothecary, Brother Severus, whose armor was white instead of the chapter's usual midnight blue, studied scan results with mechanical precision. 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising across the dorsal muscle groups, minor internal bleeding already stopped by your enhanced clotting factors. Severus's augmetic eye whirred as it focused on Geralt's torso. Your mutations are impressive. Healing rate approximately 3 times baseline human standard. Toxin resistance exceptional. Pain tolerance well above normal parameters. Witcher mutations, Geralt explained, wincing as the apothecary applied something that burned like liquid fire to his injuries. Designed for extended operations without medical support. Efficient design, Severus observed, echoing Techmarine Voss's earlier assessment. Though inferior to Astartes' physiology, we heal faster, resist more toxins, feel no pain. He paused. But your mutations require less invasive surgery to implement. Trade-offs. The burning sensation faded, replaced by blessed numbness, as whatever the apothecary had applied went to work. Geralt felt his ribs beginning to knit, accelerated by imperial medicine that made even Witcher potions seem primitive. "You'll be combat ready in 6 hours," Severus declared. "Rest recommended but not required. Your physiology can compensate for fatigue better than baseline humans." "Good to know," Geralt said. "How long until we return to the chapter's homeworld?" "We don't." Brother Sergeant Hadrius entered the Apothecarian, his armor now repaired and polished. "New orders from the chapter master. We're to investigate 3 more worlds in the Ghoul Stars. The Inquisition wants a full threat assessment before they commit resources to this region." Geralt absorbed this. "More colonies like Mortis 7? "Unknown. That's what we're here to determine." Hadrius's expression was grim. The resonance mentioned a signal. If it's transmitting across the entire region, we need to find the source and destroy it. Otherwise, every human settlement in the Ghoul Stars is at risk. Over the following weeks, they visited 2 more worlds. Both showed signs of the same corruption. Colonists merged with ancient technology, consciousness uploaded into networks that promised perfection but delivered horror. The pattern was consistent: isolation, mysterious signal, gradual transformation, total loss of humanity. The Mortifactors purged each site with methodical efficiency. Geralt's role evolved from simple combat support to primary scout and threat analyst. His Witcher senses detected corruption before Auspex scanners registered anomalies. His understanding of predator behavior predicted ambush points that saved lives. And his signs, those simple combat spells he'd learned centuries ago, proved devastatingly effective against enemies that didn't understand their principles. Brother Chaplain Arcturus's hostility gradually transformed into something approaching respect. After the second purge, he actually sought Geralt out in the librarium. "Your resistance to psychic assault is remarkable," the chaplain said, without preamble. "Our librarians train for decades to achieve similar mental fortitude. You claim it's standard Witcher conditioning?" "Standard for those who survive it," Geralt corrected. "The trial of the grasses kills most candidates. Those who live emerge with enhanced mental defenses, necessary when you hunt creatures that use illusion and mental manipulation as weapons." Arcturus was silent for a long moment, his skull-faced helmet somehow conveying thoughtfulness. "I was wrong about you. I believed unsanctioned psychers were inherently corrupted, that without the Emperor's blessing, the warp would inevitably claim you." He paused. "But you fought beside us for weeks now, faced corruption that would break trained guardsmen, and you remain clean, uncorrupted. Your soul, while touched by the immaterium, shows no signs of taint." "I appreciate the vote of confidence," Geralt said dryly. "Don't mistake observation for approval," Arcturus countered. "I still believe you're dangerous, but dangerous can be useful if properly directed." He produced a small vial filled with water that seemed to glow with inner light. Blessed water from Terra itself, touched by the Emperor's light. It burns demon flesh and disrupts warp corruption. Take it. Use it if you ever feel the darkness closing in. Geralt accepted the vial, understanding the significance of the gift. This was Arcturus's way of saying, I trust you enough to arm you against the very corruption I feared you represented. Thank you, Brother Chaplain. Thank me by staying clean. The moment you show corruption, I'll kill you myself. But until then, Arcturus turned to leave. You're one of us. Limited membership, but membership nonetheless. The third world they investigated was different. It was called Salvation's End, a mining colony built into an asteroid that had once been a thriving operation. 10,000 workers had extracted rare minerals here, sending shipments across the sector. Then, 3 months ago, the shipments stopped. The administratum assumed it was a labor dispute or equipment failure, common enough in frontier operations. They hadn't sent investigators. They should have. The Thunderhawk approached through a debris field that shouldn't have existed. Geralt saw pieces of ships floating in the void. Transports, mining vessels, even what looked like an escort frigate, all shattered by weapons fire. Recent damage, relatively speaking, within the past few months. Something destroyed an entire orbital infrastructure, Brother Malachi observed, his psychic senses reading the residual energy. Not Imperial weapons, not any xenos signature I recognize. Something else. They docked at the main facility, and Geralt's medallion began vibrating before the ramp even lowered. Strong corruption, old corruption, but unlike the previous worlds, this felt active, aware, waiting. Combat formation, Hadrius ordered. Expect heavy resistance. Witcher, what are your senses telling you? Geralt stepped off the ramp, let his enhanced senses map the environment. Multiple signatures, powerful ones, not like the resonance. This feels more focused, more intelligent. He pointed toward the facility's central hub. There, whatever's here, it's concentrated in the primary structure. They advanced through corridors that showed signs of battle. Bullet holes scarred the walls. Blast marks indicated explosive weapons. And blood, dried blood in patterns that suggested desperate last stands. The miners had fought back. It hadn't helped. The central hub was a massive chamber where ore processing equipment stood silent and cold. And at its heart, waiting with patient malevolence, was the source of Geralt's medallion's frantic vibration. A woman stood suspended in midair, her body wrapped in cables that pulsed with sickly light. But unlike the colonists they'd encountered before, she was still recognizably human, still conscious, still aware. Her eyes opened as they entered, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of something vast and ancient, using her as a mouthpiece. Finally, the Seekers arrive. The signal has been calling you for so long. We wondered if you'd answer. Identify yourself, Hadrius commanded. Bolter trained on her. I was Magos Ilara Ven, explorator of the Adeptus Mechanicus, seeker of lost technology. The woman's smile was wrong, too wide, showing too many teeth. Now I am the conduit, the voice, the living bridge between what was and what will be. Her gaze fixed on Geralt with uncomfortable intensity. And you are the anomaly, the one who doesn't belong, the thread that could unravel everything. Geralt's hand tightened on Steele's grip. What signal? What are you trying to achieve? Achievement? The conduit laughed, and the sound echoed with frequencies that made Geralt's ears ache. We're not achieving. We're awakening. The ghoul stars were once home to a civilization that transcended flesh, that merged consciousness with technology to achieve immortality. They sleep now, dormant, waiting. The signal is their alarm clock. Her expression shifted to something almost like pity. And you, with your quaint swords and primitive magic, think you can stop an awakening that's been planned for 10 million years? Brother Librarian Malachi raised his force staff. In the Emperor's name, we can try. The Emperor, the conduit mused, the corpse god who clings to life through technology he claimed to despise. How ironic, how perfectly hypocritical. She gestured, and the cables around her began to writhe. Let me show you what true synthesis looks like, what awaits all organic life once the awakening completes. The chamber erupted in violence, and Geralt realized with cold certainty that this was what all the previous encounters had been leading toward. This was the true threat, the intelligence behind the signal, the architect of corruption that threatened the entire Ghoul Stars region. And if they didn't stop her here, millions would die screaming as they were uploaded into a network designed by a dead civilization that viewed organic life as nothing more than raw materials. The battle began, and Geralt discovered that some monsters required more than swords and fire to defeat. The conduit moved like no opponent Geralt had ever faced. She didn't walk, she flowed through space, the cables extending her reach across the entire chamber. One moment she was suspended at the center, the next she was everywhere, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. Hadrius opened fire, his bolter rounds striking true, but they simply passed through her as if she wasn't entirely physical. She's phasing, partially existing in another dimension. Not dimension, dat stream, Brother Malachi corrected, his psychic senses reading the impossible. She's transitioning between physical form and pure information, becoming data, then rematerializing. I've never seen anything like it. Geralt had, sort of. Wraiths and specters on his world could phase between material and ethereal states, requiring silver or magic to harm them. He drew his silver knife, traced a Yerden sign with his free hand, a trap glyph that forced supernatural entities into physical form. The purple light of the sign blazed across the chamber floor, and when the conduit passed through it, she screamed. Her form solidified, became vulnerable, and Geralt was moving before conscious thought caught up. He closed the distance in 3 strides, drove the silver knife into the cables, connecting her to the network. The conduit shrieked in a voice that came from 10,000 throats simultaneously. You dare, wound the synthesis. The awakening will not be stopped by... Brother Chaplain Arcturus's Crozius Arcanum crashed into her skull with enough force to shatter stone. In the Emperor's name, you will be silent. But the damage was superficial. The conduit's head snapped back, then reformed, cables weaving new flesh from digital information made manifest. The Emperor, always the Emperor. Don't you understand? He tried to do what we're doing, transcend flesh, achieve immortality through technology. He failed because he clung to organic thinking. We will succeed because we've abandoned such limitations. You've abandoned humanity, Geralt snarled, slashing at cables with his silver knife. Each cut sent feedback through the network, judging by the conduit's pained responses. Whatever you were before, you're a monster now. Monster. The conduit's laugh was bitter. I was a Magos of Mars, seeking knowledge in the dark places. I found it. I found the ruins of the architects, the civilization that built this region 10 million years ago. And I understood. Flesh is weakness. Consciousness constrained by biology is prison, but freed, uploaded, synthesized with pure information. Her form shifted, showing glimpses of what she'd been. A human woman, dedicated to her craft, brilliant and driven. I could have been remembered as humanity's savior. Instead, you'll kill me and call it righteousness. We're not here to debate philosophy, Hadrius stated coldly. We're here to end a threat. Brother Malachi, can you disrupt her connection to the network? The librarian's force staff blazed brighter. I can try. But she's integrated deep. Severing her might collapse the entire facility. Acceptable losses, Hadrius replied. Do it. Malachi's psychic might crashed into the network like a battering ram. Geralt felt the impact, a wave of mental force that made his medallion scream in protest. The conduit convulsed, her form flickering between solid and data stream as Malachi forced her toward one state or the other. You cannot. I am eternal. I am the future. The Architect's legacy will die here, Geralt interrupted. He traced an Igni sign with both hands, channeling fire not at the conduit herself, but at the processing equipment around her. Ancient technology that had survived 10 million years met Imperial Promethium-enhanced flames, and even perfection had limits. The equipment began to melt, fail, and with it, the conduit's connection to the vast network began to fracture. No, the awakening. The signal must continue. The others must be... Brother Sergeant Hadrius activated his power fist and drove it into the central processing core with surgical precision. The explosion of feedback made every light in the chamber explode. Sparks rained down like burning snow, and the conduit, Magos Ilara Ven, who'd sought knowledge and found damnation, finally died. Her physical form collapsed, cables going limp, the intelligence that had animated them finally severed from its power source. For just a moment, Geralt saw her real face, not the monstrous synthesis, but the woman beneath. She looked almost grateful. Then she was gone, and only meat and metal remained. Silence fell across the chamber, broken by warning klaxons as the facility's power systems began catastrophic failure. Malachi had been right. Severing the conduit had destabilized everything. Withdrawal, Hadrius commanded. The asteroid is going critical. We have 5 minutes, maybe less. They ran through corridors that were already buckling, pursued by explosions as ancient power systems overloaded. Geralt's enhanced stamina kept pace with the Space Marines' powered armor, but barely. His lungs burned, his legs screamed. But he'd survived this long by knowing when to push past limits and when to collapse, and this was definitely a pushing moment. The Thunderhawk's engines were already hot when they reached the landing bay. Brother Cassius was at the controls, the ramp already rising as the last Marine cleared the threshold. Geralt threw himself inside as the ship lifted, felt the deck slam up to meet him. Then they were accelerating away at speeds that made his inner ear protest violently. Behind them, Salvation's End died. The asteroid broke apart in a silent explosion that lit up the void like a newborn star, scattering debris across 100,000 kilometers. Everything the architects had built here, everything the conduit had tried to preserve, reduced to fragments that would drift forever in the dark. In the transport bay, Geralt finally allowed himself to collapse. Every muscle ached. His ribs, barely healed from the last fight, had reopened. Blood trickled from his nose and ears, after effects of Malachi's psychic assault on the network. But they'd won. The signal source was destroyed. The threat, for now, was contained. Hadrius approached, offering a hand up. Geralt took it, let the brother sergeant pull him to his feet. 3 worlds purged, 1 signal source destroyed, multiple resonance networks eliminated. Hadrius's voice carried something that might have been satisfaction. The Inquisition will be pleased. The chapter master will be pleased. And you, Witcher, proved your worth beyond any reasonable doubt. Just doing the job, Geralt managed. The job nearly killed you, Malachi observed, studying Geralt with professional concern. You're bleeding from multiple orifices. Your enhanced physiology is compensating, but you need rest. Actual rest, not just stim shots and stubborn refusal to admit weakness. Agreed, Hadrius said. We return to the Mortis Aeternum for refit and resupply. Then we see what fresh horrors the galaxy has prepared for us. As the Thunderhawk docked and Geralt limped toward the apothecarian, he reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. He'd arrived in this galaxy lost and confused, equipped with nothing but a crude sword and centuries of experience that seemed inadequate for the scale of threats here. Now he was auxiliary to a Space Marine chapter. He had equipment that surpassed anything from his world. He'd faced corruption that made demons from his reality seem almost quaint, and he'd proven, to himself as much as to the Mortifactors, that witches had value even in the grim darkness of the far future. But the conduit's final words haunted him. The others must be. She'd been cut off before finishing, but the implication was clear. There were more like her, more conduits, more signals, more attempts to awaken whatever the architects had left sleeping in the ghoul stars. One threat eliminated. But how many more were out there, singing their seductive songs of transcendence and perfection into the void? In the Apothecarian, Brother Severus examined him with clinical efficiency. Remarkable. You should be in critical condition. Instead, you're merely severely injured. Your mutations are adapting to the level of trauma you're experiencing. Witches are hard to kill, Geralt said, which had been his professional motto for 300 years. Apparently so, Severus agreed. Rest now. You've earned it. Geralt allowed himself to drift into sleep, knowing that when he woke, there would be new threats to hunt, new monsters to kill, new contracts to fulfill. The scale had changed, the tools had changed, but the fundamentals remained the same. Someone had to stand between the darkness and the innocent. Someone had to hunt the things that preyed on humanity. Someone had to do the job, no matter how impossible it seemed. That someone was a witcher, and witchers never quit, not even in the 41st millennium. The journey back to the Mortifactors' fortress monastery took 3 weeks of warp travel that Geralt spent in recovery and reflection. His ribs healed fully. The internal bleeding stopped. His enhanced physiology, bolstered by imperial medical science, restored him to fighting condition faster than should have been possible. But the mental toll was harder to measure. 300 years of hunting monsters on the continent had prepared him for many things. Curses, demons, vampires, creatures that violated natural law simply by existing. But nothing had prepared him for the sheer scale of threat in this galaxy. The enemies here didn't just threaten villages or kingdoms. They threatened entire worlds, entire civilizations. And the Imperium's response, orbital bombardment, systematic purges, sterilization protocols, made even the harshest measures from his world seem measured by comparison. He spent hours in the librarium, studying what he could access about the galaxy's history. The more he learned, the more he understood why the Imperium was the way it was. 10,000 years of constant warfare against enemies that wanted nothing less than humanity's complete extinction. No room for subtlety, no time for measured responses. Just survival through overwhelming force and absolute conviction. Harsh, brutal, but given the alternatives, perhaps necessary. The fortress monastery was called the Tomb of Ages, and it lived up to its name. Built into a Deathworld's largest mountain range, it was less a structure and more a monument to warfare given architectural form. Every wall was decorated with bones. Every chamber held relics from 10,000 years of battles, and everywhere, Space Marines trained in arts of death that made Geralt's Witcher training seem almost gentle. Chapter Master Vakros summoned him to the Strategium on their second day back. The command center was filled with officers analyzing data from the Ghoul Stars operation, their discussion technical and efficient. Witcher, Vakros greeted him. Brother Sergeant Hadrius reports your performance exceeded expectations. 3 combat operations, multiple threat identifications, tactical insights that prevented casualties. Acceptable work. Coming from Vakros, that was high praise. Thank you, Chapter Master. Don't thank me yet. I'm not done. Vakros gestured to the hololith display, which showed a star map with hundreds of systems highlighted in red. These are known or suspected cult activity sites across the sector. genestealer infestations, chaos corruption, xenos infiltration, and now, thanks to your discoveries, potential architect awakening sites. Each one requires investigation. Each one could become a planetary-scale threat if ignored. Geralt studied the map, feeling the weight of those red markers. Each one represented people in danger, civilians who had no idea what was growing in their midst. You want me to investigate them? I want you to prioritize them, Vakros corrected. Space Marines are valuable resources. We can't investigate every rumor, every suspected cult, every shadow that moves in the Underhive. But you, a specialist trained to recognize patterns, identify threats before they mature. You can separate genuine dangers from false alarms. Work ahead of us. Mark the real threats. Let us focus our strength where it matters most. It was a witcher's contract writ large. Instead of village notice boards listing local monsters, he'd have entire sectors. Instead of tracking beasts through forests, he'd track corruption through hive cities. The scale was different, but the principle was identical. I'll need resources, Geralt said. Transport, equipment, access to intelligence networks. You'll have them. Brother Hadrius has volunteered to serve as your handler. He'll coordinate logistics, provide backup when needed, and ensure you don't accidentally commit heresy through ignorance of Imperial protocol. Vakros's expression was almost amused. Consider him your keeper. I've had worse partnerships, Geralt said, thinking of some of his more difficult contracts over the centuries. Good, because this partnership is permanent, or as permanent as anything gets in the 41st millennium. Vakros leaned forward. You asked me once if I'd help you find your way home. I've had my librarians investigate. The answer is maybe. Portal magic exists. The warp connects dimensions, but controlling it requires knowledge we don't have. Yet. Geralt felt something tighten in his chest. Yet. There are places in the galaxy where dimensional barriers are thin. Ancient xenos sites, warp storms, conjunction points where reality bleeds into other realities. Vakros manipulated the hololith, highlighting several systems. If you investigate these cult sites, you'll naturally encounter such places. Document them, study them, and perhaps, eventually, find one that connects to your home dimension. It was more than Geralt had dared hope for. Not a guarantee, but a possibility. A path that might lead home. And in the meantime, I hunt monsters for the Mortifactors. You hunt monsters for humanity, Vakros corrected. The Mortifactors are simply your employers, but yes, that's the arrangement. He extended a gauntleted hand. Do we have an accord, Witcher? Will you walk the path in service to the Imperium, in exchange for resources and the chance, however slim, to return home? Geralt clasped the offered hand without hesitation. We have an accord. Excellent. Brother Hadrius will brief you on your first independent assignment. Something in the Calixis sector, a pleasure world where the nobility has started exhibiting strange behaviors. Could be Slanesh corruption, could be genestealer infiltration, could be simple madness and degeneracy. Vakros released his grip. Find out which, kill what needs killing, report back. Standard Witcher contract, just with better pay and more exotic monsters. Geralt left the strategium with purpose settling across his shoulders like a familiar cloak. He'd spent weeks uncertain of his place in this galaxy, feeling like an outsider thrust into incomprehensible circumstances. But now he understood. The galaxy might be different, the scale might be vaster, but the need was the same. Monsters existed, people suffered, someone had to do something about it, and that someone was him. Brother Hadrius found him in the armory, checking his equipment and preparing for deployment. Chapter Master told you about the Calixis assignment. He did. Pleasure world with suspected corruption, subtle investigation required. Exactly. Can't send Space Marines for subtle. We're about as subtle as orbital bombardment. Hadrius handed over a data slate. Full briefing here. Transport leaves in 6 hours. You'll be operating alone initially, but I'll be in system if you need extraction or fire support." Geralt scanned the briefing, his mind already working through approach vectors and investigation strategies. 3 centuries of experience applied to a new environment. One question: if I do eventually find a way home, will the Imperium let me leave? Hadrius was silent for a long moment. "Honestly, I don't know. You've seen things. Imperial technology, space marine operations, classified cult activities. That makes you a security risk." He met Geralt's eyes. "But you've also proven loyal, effective, worthy of trust. The chapter master believes in honoring oaths. If he promised to help you find home, he'll keep that promise. What happens after?" He shrugged. "That's future problems. Focus on present ones." Good advice. Geralt had spent 300 years focusing on the contract in front of him, not worrying about what came next. Why change now? He finished his equipment check, secured his weapons, and headed for the transport bay. As he walked through the fortress monastery's corridors, he passed Space Marines who nodded in acknowledgement. Not as equals, he'd never be their equal, not in strength or durability or raw killing power, but as something worthy of respect. A specialist who'd proven his value in the crucible of combat. The transport was a smaller craft than the Thunderhawk, designed for single operative deployment rather than squad insertion. The pilot was a chapter serf who'd served the Mortifactors for 40 years, his face scarred by countless battles fought in service to the Angels of Death. "Heard about you," the pilot said as Geralt strapped in. "The Witcher from another dimension killed a genestealer patriarch with a scrap metal sword. That true?" "Mostly," Geralt replied. "The sword was slightly better than scrap." The pilot laughed. "Well, Witcher, let's get you to Calixis so you can kill more xenos with marginally adequate equipment. Emperor protects." "So they keep telling me," Geralt said. The transport launched, carrying him away from the Tomb of Ages toward a pleasure world where nobles played at decadence while something dark grew in the shadows. A perfect contract for a Witcher. Investigate, identify, eliminate. The fundamentals never changed, regardless of galaxy. As they accelerated toward the warp jump point, Geralt allowed himself a small smile. He'd come to this galaxy lost and confused, stripped of everything familiar. But he'd found his place, not as a space marine or an imperial citizen, but as what he'd always been, a professional monster hunter who worked in the spaces between civilization and chaos. The path stretched before him, lit by the dying light of distant stars, and somewhere out there, beyond the warp storms and the xenos threats, and the corrupting influence of powers that defied comprehension, might be a way home. But until he found it, he had work to do. Monsters to hunt, people to save, contracts to fulfill. Because that's what witches did. No matter what galaxy they found themselves in, the Emperor might protect. But Geralt of Rivia protected better. One monster at a time, one contract at a time, for as long as the path required. And in the grim darkness of the far future, the path had never been longer or more necessary. The galaxy burned, as it had for 10,000 years, and would burn for 10,000 more. But in the darkness between those eternal fires, a Witcher walked his path. Geralt of Rivia had crossed dimensions, survived horrors that would have broken lesser men, and found purpose in a reality so vast and brutal it made his home-world struggles seem almost quaint by comparison. He'd fought alongside Angels of Death, purged xenos corruption that threatened entire worlds, and proven that some skills, the patient tracking of monsters, the careful study of predator behavior, the professional application of violence against things that preyed on the innocent, transcended galaxies. The Imperium would never truly understand him. To them, he was an anomaly, useful but inexplicable, valued but never fully trusted. an unsanctioned psyker who somehow remained uncorrupted, a 300-year-old hunter from another dimension who killed with medieval weapons in a galaxy of plasma and promethium, a man who asked questions in a civilization built on absolute certainty. But the Mortifactors understood something the broader Imperium did not, that in a galaxy of infinite threats, specialized tools had value, that sometimes you needed a scalpel instead of a hammer, that a hunter who moved through shadows and recognized corruption before it metastasized could save more lives than 1,000 Space Marines deployed after the infestation had spread. Somewhere on the pleasure world of Selenthis, nobles danced and played while something dark moved among them. Geralt would find it, identify it, kill it if necessary, save it if possible. Another contract fulfilled, another threat eliminated, another small victory against the darkness, and perhaps, eventually, he would find his way home. Through some ancient portal in a forgotten xenos ruin, or a warp storm that aligned properly, or knowledge purchased through years of service to the Imperium. The chapter master had given him hope, slim, uncertain, but real. But even if he never found that door between dimensions, even if he spent the rest of his unnaturally long life hunting monsters in the 41st millennium, it would be a life lived according to the principles he'd always followed. Protect the innocent, hunt the guilty, maintain professional standards, and never, ever work for free. The galaxy was vast. The threats were infinite. The Imperium's response was often brutal beyond reason, but somewhere in that darkness, a Witcher walked. Not because he believed in the Emperor or the Imperium's righteousness. Not because he'd been born to this galaxy or chosen its crusades as his own. But because monsters were universal. Suffering was universal. And someone had to do something about it. 300 years of hunting had taught Geralt many truths. But one above all, the path had no end. Just the next contract, the next monster, the next person who needed protection from things that shouldn't exist, but did. In the 41st millennium, where humanity teetered on the edge of extinction and every day brought fresh horrors from the void, that path had never been more necessary. Silver and steel, signs and strategy, experience and endurance. The tools changed, the scale changed, the enemies evolved, but the fundamentals remained eternal. A Witcher's work was never done, and in the grim darkness of the far future, that work had only just begun.